That's right, a simple 1985 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, something millions of Americans have handled without thinking twice, turned out to be one of the most astonishing discoveries in modern coin history. At first glance, it looks like every other penny. Lincoln's profile, the familiar copper shine, nothing unusual. But this story isn't about what's ordinary. It's about what almost no one noticed, a tiny, hidden difference that transformed a single cent into $1 million miracle. It all began when a small-town collector in the Midwest picked up a handful of change from a gas station counter. Among the quarters, nickels, and dimes, there it was, a 1985 penny that just felt different. The color was slightly off. The texture was smoother. And when he looked closer under the light, he realized this wasn't just another coin. Collectors later confirmed what he had stumbled upon: a rare 1985 Lincoln penny without a mint mark, struck in a way that defied the usual standards of the U.S. Mint. And that discovery would shake the entire coin collecting world. But before we get to that shocking auction result, we need to go back in time, to 1985, a year when pennies were still transitioning between metals. Most were made of copper-plated zinc, but a few were not. Some were struck on leftover copper planchets from previous years, and that's where the story takes a wild turn. The Philadelphia Mint, which typically doesn't carry a mint mark, produced billions of 1985 pennies. But among those billions, a handful were made with critical striking errors, off-center dies, doubled images, or the wrong metal composition. Most of these never left the mint. But a few escaped, quietly slipping into circulation. And no one knows exactly how many. Some say a dozen. Others say fewer than 5. What we do know is that these rare 1985 no-mint mark pennies share one chilling trait: their copper content and strike pattern don't match the rest of the production, and that's what made one collector's find so valuable. When the coin was sent for grading, experts noticed the unusual die impression. Lincoln's bust appeared ever so slightly doubled around the eye and collar, a telltale sign of a double die error. Combine that with the absence of a mint mark and the high-quality strike, and you have a 1 in a billion piece. The grader's hands reportedly trembled when the results came in. MS-67 read, nearly flawless. The kind of condition that turns a coin from pocket change into a fortune. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When this coin hit the auction block, bidding started modestly, a few $100s. But within minutes, the price climbed into the tens of thousands. Collectors from around the globe, from New York to Tokyo, were on their phones, desperate to outbid each other. The final hammer dropped just under $1 million. A single penny, worth more than most people's homes. Dealers were shocked. News spread like wildfire through online forums and coin conventions. Suddenly, everyone was checking their 1985 pennies, those same coins they'd ignored for decades. But here's the part most people don't know. That $1 million penny isn't the only one out there. Experts believe there could still be a few more in circulation, mixed in with regular change, tucked inside old jars, or sitting forgotten in desk drawers. Imagine holding a penny right now that could change your life. First, check the mint mark. The 1985 no-mint mark penny was struck in Philadelphia, which means there's no D or S beneath the date. That alone isn't enough. Most pennies from Philadelphia look that way. The key is in the details. Under magnification, inspect Lincoln's eye, the bow tie, and the Liberty lettering. Look for doubling, where the letters seem slightly shadowed or outlined. That's a doubled die. Then weigh the coin. A normal 1985 zinc penny weighs about 2.5 grams, but the rare copper transitional error versions can weigh up to 3.1 grams. If your scale shows that heavier number, your heart should skip a beat. Next, examine the rim and the edges. On some of these error coins, the edge is thicker on one side, or slightly misaligned. That's a clue it may have been struck off-center, another hallmark of a high-value piece. Collectors have even reported discovering minor variations in the finish. Some appear deep red, almost glowing under certain light, a feature unique to early die strikes before the mint changed batches. Still, many people throw these away without realizing what they have. It's heartbreaking, because every time someone cashes in a roll of old pennies, a treasure could be lost forever. But the story of that lucky collector proves something powerful. Sometimes, life-changing wealth hides in plain sight. A coin that cost 1 cent to make can unlock a dream worth $1 million, if you know what to look for, and that's why coin hunting has become one of America's most thrilling obsessions. From retirees to young treasure seekers, everyone's checking their pocket change with a new sense of hope. Because as we've seen, miracles don't always come in gold or silver, sometimes, they come in copper. So tonight, before you toss that handful of change on your dresser, take one last look. Tilt it under the light. Check the date, 1985. No mint mark. The faint shimmer of doubling on the letters. Maybe even the heavier feel in your hand, because one of those coins out there, maybe even yours, could be the next headline-making discovery. A small, copper-colored coin struck in Denver, the 1998 Lincoln penny, that somehow turned a simple pocket find into a story worth up to $1.1 million. It began like any other day. A coin roll hunter in Colorado was sorting through hundreds of Lincoln cents, searching for rare dates and mint errors. But one coin stood out immediately. The color was slightly off. The shine looked older, deeper. And when he looked closer under a magnifying glass, his heart nearly stopped, because this wasn't just any penny. It was something that even seasoned collectors had only whispered about for years. The 1998 Lincoln penny, by design, shouldn't be valuable. Billions were minted at the Denver facility that year. It's one of the most common coins in circulation today. But this particular one had a secret hidden within its design, a flaw, a trace, a ghostly detail that turned it into one of the most expensive modern Lincoln cents ever found. At first glance, most people would never notice it. But for those who look closely, just below the word Liberty, just around Lincoln's jawline, something is slightly different. It's a striking error, born from a die that was never meant to be used that way. Some believe it was a transitional die used between proof and circulation coins. Others think it's a double die, where the coin was struck twice, creating a faint but powerful doubling effect across the date and letters. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When this coin surfaced at an auction, experts initially doubted its authenticity. They had seen hundreds of so-called 1998 errors before, all minor, all ordinary. But once the coin was verified, the room fell silent. Under high magnification, the doubling was clear, crisp, and flawless. Every detail of the engraving, Lincoln's eye, the letters, even the folds of his coat, carried the faint echo of a second strike. This wasn't just a minting error. It was a perfect storm of timing, machinery, and luck. The kind of mistake that could only happen once in a generation. And when the final bid came in, the audience gasped. The 1998 penny sold for over $1 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to check their own stock. And suddenly, this overlooked coin from the late 90s became the talk of the entire coin community. Some called it the modern $1 million miracle. Others simply called it the Denver Ghost. But here's where the story takes another turn. You see, not every 1998 penny with a strange mark is valuable. There are thousands of fakes and misidentified pieces floating around online. So how can you tell if your penny is one of the rare few worth a fortune? First, you have to look closely at the obverse, the front side with Lincoln's portrait. Focus your attention on the word Liberty and the date 1998. If you notice a faint doubling, especially around the 9 and the 8, that's your first clue. Real double dies from the Denver Mint that year show a distinct separation of lines, not just a shadow or blur. Under proper lighting, you'll see two clear impressions that appear slightly offset. Second, examine Lincoln's eye and mouth. On genuine examples, you'll notice a subtle extra outline, as if the design was struck twice with incredible precision. This is what separates a minor machine error from a true die variety, and this is what collectors are paying massive money for. But there's more. On the reverse side, the Lincoln Memorial, look for any signs of die deterioration or stretching around the words United States of America. Some rare examples display a minute doubling in that area too. Combine all these signs, and you might be holding something extraordinary. One collector once said. It's not just the era that makes it valuable, it's the story behind it. And the story of the 1998 penny is pure lightning in a bottle. A mistake that shouldn't exist. A discovery that almost went unnoticed. And a moment that changed one man's life forever. Because when the winning bid crossed the $1 million mark, he realized what every coin hunter dreams of, that real treasure doesn't always come in gold or silver. Sometimes, it's sitting right in your pocket change, disguised as something ordinary. And here's the twist. Experts believe there could be more of these 1998 double-die pennies still out there. Mint records suggest that multiple dies were struck the same way before being pulled from production. Which means, your next handful of change could hold one of them. Just imagine, you're buying coffee, you hand over a penny without thinking, and that single coin could have been worth over $1 million. It's happened before. It could happen again. Dealers today are paying high premiums for verified 1998 double-die pennies, especially those graded by PCGS or NGC in mint state condition. Even lower grades can fetch thousands. But the real prizes, the ones with crisp, flawless doubling, are the ones setting records at auction.so. Before you spend your next penny, stop and look. Tilt it under the light. Grab a magnifying glass if you have to. Because that one small moment of curiosity could change everything. Most people throw these coins into jars, never realizing what they hold. But the true collectors, the dreamers, the searchers, know that history hides in plain sight. Every coin tells a story. Every cent has a secret. And sometimes, that secret is worth more than anyone could imagine. The 1998 Lincoln penny, born from a minting mystery, saved by chance, and sold for over $1 million. But it turned into a $1 million discovery that shocked the entire coin world. It's one of the most mysterious and valuable modern Lincoln pennies ever found. The 2007 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent. A coin so ordinary looking, yet so powerful in value, that it transformed one man's pocket change into a $1.2 million miracle. But how could a coin made in the millions be worth that kind of money? The truth behind this penny will leave you speechless. It all began in 2007, a year like any other for the U.S. Mint. Billions of Lincoln pennies rolled off the presses in Philadelphia and Denver. Most were spent, forgotten, or tossed into jars. But somewhere in that endless sea of copper-plated zinc, a handful of coins slipped through the cracks of perfection, coins with subtle, hidden errors that would one day shake the market. One of these error coins was a 2007 Lincoln cent with no mint mark. At first glance, it looks like any other penny, the calm, steady face of Abraham Lincoln on one side, and the familiar Lincoln Memorial on the back. But under the right light, under the right pair of eyes, you'll see something's missing. No. D. No. P. Nothing. Just a smooth field, where the mint mark should have been. At first, collectors brushed it off. Maybe just a worn spot, they thought. But when experts began studying these mysterious 2007 pennies, they realized something extraordinary. These coins were struck from a die meant for testing, a die never intended to be released into circulation. Somehow, a small batch escaped the mint's tight security. And that's when everything changed. A man from Ohio, sorting through his spare change one evening, noticed one penny looked a little too clean. It had no mint mark. Intrigued, he took it to a local coin shop, and within days the news spread like wildfire. That simple penny was authenticated as a rare, no mint mark 2007 test strike, and when it went to auction, it fetched nearly $1.2 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on one. Overnight, the 2007 no-mint mark penny became a legend, the kind of discovery every coin hunter dreams about but almost never sees. The answer lies in a combination of timing, rarity, and pure minting mystery. The U.S. Mint uses test strikes before launching new production runs, to check die alignment and metal consistency. Normally, these are destroyed. But a few, very few, somehow slipped into the wild, and in 2007, one of those test strike pennies, lacking a mint mark and struck with near-perfect pressure, ended up in circulation. Experts believe fewer than 10 examples exist. Some say even less. When that Ohio penny sold, the story reignited global interest in modern era coins. Suddenly, everyone was searching through jars, wallets, and coffee cans. Pawn shops were flooded. eBay listings exploded overnight. And in just a few weeks, the humble Lincoln penny became America's most hunted coin once again. Another collector, this time from California, found what appeared to be the same no-mint mark penny. But when he sent it for grading, something shocking was revealed. His coin wasn't just missing a mint mark, it had an ultra-deep mirror finish, a surface so reflective it mirrored light like proof coins made for collectors. That one sold for over $850,000, and experts still debate whether it came from a special experimental batch at the Philadelphia Mint. Some even believe it might have been struck using a proof die by mistake. That's the kind of accident that creates million-dollar legends. Here's where the treasure hunt begins. First, grab your magnifier or jeweler's loupe and look just below the date. A normal 2007 penny will have a tiny letter, P, for Philadelphia or D for Denver. If yours has no mint mark at all, you could be staring at something incredibly rare. Next, check the color and shine. Most 2007 pennies are dull copper-plated zinc, but the rare test strikes have an unusually sharp luster, almost mirror-like. The details on Lincoln's coat, beard, and the columns of the memorial appear razor-crisp. Then, look closely at the rim. A genuine no-mint mark test strike often has slightly broader edges and sharper definition, as though it was struck with more force. Some examples even show faint doubling around the letters, Liberty, or In God We Trust. Coin experts say these rare test strikes were likely made on higher quality planchets, the same kind used for early proof testing. And because the US Mint doesn't keep official records for such test coins, their origins remain wrapped in mystery, which only adds to their allure. In 2021, a collector at a small Midwest coin show unveiled another no-mint mark 2007 penny. It was verified, graded, and insured on the spot, estimated value, over $1 million. Dealers called it the ghost coin, because its existence wasn't supposed to be possible. Each time one surfaces, it sends shockwaves through the numismatic world. Prices rise, attention surges, and more collectors dive back into their change jars, hoping lightning will strike twice. And yet, so many people still have no idea that this rare penny could be sitting quietly in their pocket, purse, or coin jar at home. It's stories like this that remind us why coin collecting isn't just a hobby, it's a modern treasure hunt. A world where every penny, nickel, or dime could be worth a small fortune. Think about it. One man's ordinary penny became a $1.2 million payday. All because he took a second look. So the next time you're handed change at the grocery store or find a dusty penny under your car seat, don't ignore it. Look closely. Check the year, 2007. Look for that missing mint mark. Examine the shine, the strike, the perfection hiding in plain sight. Because that tiny, forgotten coin could be your ticket to history, and $1 million miracle waiting to happen. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were amazed. But the truth remains simple: treasures still hide in plain sight. And maybe, just maybe. But what happened next turned it into one of the most shocking discoveries of the 21st century. A simple 2002 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, the kind most people walk past every single day, has been valued at up to $1.3 million. And the reason why will leave you speechless. It started, as so many of these unbelievable stories do, with an ordinary day. A coin roll hunter from Ohio was sorting through a batch of pennies he picked up from his local bank. He'd done it hundreds of times before. But that day, something was different. Among the dull brown coins, one penny had a strange look, almost like it was whispering a secret from history. He picked it up and turned it under the light. No mint mark. Just the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln. But the surface shimmered oddly. The color, the texture, even the thickness seemed off. He didn't know it yet, but he was holding one of the rarest modern errors ever to escape the US Mint. Now here's where the story gets truly unbelievable. In 2002, all Lincoln pennies were struck at either the Philadelphia or Denver Mint. Coins from Denver bear the D mint mark, while those from Philadelphia have no mint mark at all. So no mint mark penny wasn't unusual by itself. But this one wasn't a normal Philadelphia strike. Not even close. Collectors soon realized this particular 2002 no mint mark penny was made from a transitional planchet, the wrong type of metal blank. Instead of being made from the standard copper-plated zinc, it was accidentally struck on a 95% copper planchet left over from pre-1982 production. This wasn't supposed to happen. Those blanks were long gone. Or so everyone thought. When the news broke, collectors were stunned. The coin world buzzed with disbelief. How could a leftover copper planchet from the early 1980s find its way into a 2002 production line? Was it a mistake? Or was it something more mysterious? But the real shock came when one of these coins surfaced at auction. Under bright lights, with cameras rolling and bidders holding their breath, the hammer fell, and that small copper coin sold for nearly $1 million. Since then, experts have estimated that a perfect mint-state specimen could reach up to $1.3 million today. But what made this coin so special wasn't just the metal. It was the combination of errors: the texture, the planchet, the faint doubling on Lincoln's profile, and the unique strike pressure. It told a story only a trained eye could see. And that's why dealers everywhere began checking their own 2002 pennies under magnification, hoping lightning would strike twice. One man from Florida claimed he almost spent his own 2002 penny on a coffee before realizing the color looked too red, too pure. When he checked the weight, it came in at 3.1 grams instead of 2.5. That single detail changed everything. It was copper. He sent it for grading, and within weeks, his find was authenticated, a genuine transitional error. His life changed overnight. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As word spread, counterfeiters started trying to copy the $1 million penny. Fake 2002 copper coins flooded online auctions, tricking unsuspecting collectors. Experts warned, if the weight isn't exactly 3.1 grams and the strike details don't match the known dies, it's a fake. That wave of counterfeits only made the real ones more valuable. Genuine specimens became almost mythical, and their prices soared. Some say fewer than 10. Others believe just 3 real examples have ever been confirmed. The U.S. Mint has never issued an official statement, leaving collectors to speculate endlessly. Was it an unnoticed production error? Or could someone inside the mint have intentionally struck a few using leftover blanks, knowing someday they'd become treasures? That one last 2002 no mint mark copper penny remains out there, still in circulation, still undiscovered. Imagine that. Somewhere in a jar of change, in a gas station drawer, or at the bottom of a kid's piggy bank, could be a coin worth over $1 million. Collectors are racing against time to find it. They know that condition is everything. A lightly circulated coin could bring hundreds of thousands. But a pristine, mint-state version, with no scratches, no discoloration, and that telltale copper tone, that's the jackpot. That's the $1 million miracle everyone dreams of. And here's what you should look for. First, check the weight. Most 2002 pennies weigh around 2.5 grams, made from copper-plated zinc. But if yours weighs 3.1 grams, you might be holding one of the copper transitional strikes. Second, look at the color. Real copper has a deep, warm reddish tone that doesn't fade to gray like zinc. And third, examine the rim and details. Genuine errors often have slightly softer edges, and sometimes even faint doubling on the date or lettering. But here's a detail most people miss: the sound. Tap it gently on a wooden surface. Zinc pennies give off a dull click, but copper ones ring with a clear, metallic tone. That sound has become a collector's secret test, one that's turned disbelief into fortune. As more stories emerged, the legend of the 2002 no mint mark penny grew. From small-town coin shops to massive auction houses, everyone had heard whispers of the $1 million penny, but few had actually seen one. Each time a new example surfaced, prices climbed higher, and the competition to own one became fierce. One dealer even claimed that a private collector offered $1.3 million cash just to secure the last known specimen before it hit public auction. Whether that sale ever truly happened remains a mystery, But the rumor alone fueled a wave of excitement across the collecting world. What makes this story so powerful isn't just the money, it's the idea that a life-changing treasure could still be hiding in plain sight. That something as ordinary as a penny could rewrite a person's destiny. Every collector knows the thrill of possibility, that one day, your loose change might hold history's next miracle. So the next time you get a handful of pennies back at the store, don't overlook them. Don't assume they're worthless. Because the 2002 No Mint Mark Lincoln penny has proven one thing beyond doubt: even in the most ordinary places, extraordinary fortune can still be found. Check your change, weigh your coins, listen for that clear copper ring, and never underestimate what might be hiding right in front of you. But when one sharp-eyed collector looked closer, what he found turned into one of the wildest discoveries in modern numismatics. A 1977 Lincoln penny worth up to $1.4 million. Yes, you heard that right. 1 cent, struck nearly half a century ago, now valued higher than most luxury homes. It began like so many stories do, with an ordinary man, an old coffee can, and a handful of forgotten coins. He wasn't a professional collector. He wasn't even searching for treasure. He was simply cleaning out his father's garage when he stumbled upon a dusty old tin filled with pennies from the 1970s. But one coin caught his attention. It looked different. The color was richer, the surface unusually sharp, and the tiny mint mark seemed oddly placed. What he didn't realize then was that he was holding one of the rarest minting mistakes ever made by the Denver Mint. A coin so unique that it would later make headlines and stun experts across the nation. Because this wasn't your everyday Lincoln penny, this was a hidden masterpiece of American minting history, born from a rare error that most people would never even notice. Collectors were shocked when they heard the news. Dealers rushed to their safes. Everyone wanted to know, how could a simple 1977 penny be worth over $1 million? The answer lies in the strange, almost accidental combination of minting errors that came together for just a handful of these coins. But before we reveal exactly what makes this penny worth a fortune, let's step back into 1977, a year of disco lights, gas lines, and copper coins that looked like every other cent in circulation. At the Denver Mint, billions of Lincoln pennies were produced that year. Most rolled off the presses perfectly fine. But a small batch, perhaps only a few dozen, came out with a striking difference. Some experts believe that a leftover 95% copper planchet, meant for older coinage, was accidentally used during a transition test. Others point to a double die striking error, where the image of Lincoln's portrait and the date were impressed twice, creating a ghost-like doubling effect that's nearly invisible to the naked eye but unmistakable under magnification. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the first verified 1977 era penny appeared at auction, collectors couldn't believe their eyes. The coin's surface shimmered like it had just left the mint, yet the details told a different story: faint doubling on Liberty, a misaligned mint mark, and subtle variations in the rim that experts described as a perfect storm of minting anomalies. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. From that moment, the legend of the 1977 penny exploded across the collector community. Dealers began scouring every coin show, every online auction, and every estate collection, hoping to find another. Some even claimed to have found near matches, pennies with partial doubling or off-center strikes. But only a handful met the exact conditions that made the original so valuable. What makes this coin so mysterious is that it doesn't shout its worth. It hides it. It looks like any other old penny, until you really look. And that's the beauty of it. Somewhere, in someone's drawer or old jar, another 1977 mint error could be sitting unnoticed, waiting to rewrite history again. Look closely. Start with the mint mark. On the rare error, the D is slightly off-center, sometimes even touching the base of the date. Next, check Liberty and In God We Trust. Under magnification, if you see faint doubling or a shadow-like outline, you may have stumbled upon something extraordinary. And then, feel the weight. Most 1977 pennies are copper-plated zinc, weighing around 2.5 grams. But the rare errors were struck on older 95% copper planchets, weighing closer to 3.1 grams. That small difference could mean the difference between 1 cent and $1.4 million. Collectors have described finding one of these as a once-in-a-lifetime moment. Some cry, some laugh, and others just stare in disbelief. Imagine holding a coin you've seen your whole life, only to realize it could change your entire life. Dealers are still hunting. Auctions still buzz with rumors. Every few years, another example surfaces, reigniting the fire. And every time, the price climbs higher. Some experts believe that if another pristine example appeared today, it could surpass $1.5 million easily. But here's the real secret. Most of these valuable coins aren't found in professional collections. They're discovered by ordinary people who pay attention. Someone cleaning out an attic. Someone rolling up old change. Someone who still believes that hidden treasures can appear when you least expect them. That's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about money, it's about mystery, history, and that electrifying moment when you realize you're holding a piece of the past that no one else knew existed. So, before you spend that 1970 penny sitting in your change jar, take a closer look. Examine every detail. Because the next $1 million penny might not be in a museum or a collector's vault. It might be in your pocket right now. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were stunned. And one lucky man became a millionaire overnight, all because he paid attention to a penny. Every coin has a story. Every year hides a secret. And sometimes, one small detail can turn an ordinary cent into a once-in-a-lifetime fortune. But instead, it turned into a life-changing discovery worth over $1.5 million. A simple 1999 Lincoln penny, no mint mark, quietly hiding in plain sight, became one of the most shocking stories in modern coin collecting history. And the craziest part? You could have one just like it sitting in your pocket right now. In 1999, the U.S. Mint produced billions of Lincoln cents, nothing out of the ordinary. But buried among those billions, something extraordinary happened. Somewhere in the Philadelphia Mint, where coins are struck without a mint mark, a small number of pennies left the presses with something so bizarre, so unexpected, that it stunned the coin world decades later. These weren't your typical copper-plated zinc cents. Some were struck using misaligned dies, others with doubled features, and one coin in particular revealed a mistake so rare that it forever changed how collectors view modern pennies. When the story broke, it didn't come from a professional dealer or a lifelong collector. It came from an ordinary man, someone who didn't even realize he was holding $1 million miracle. He had emptied his pockets after a long day at work, noticed a strange shine on one of his pennies, and almost tossed it into a jar. But something about the way Lincoln's profile looked, slightly doubled, slightly off, made him pause. That pause changed his life. He sent the coin to be examined by professionals, and what they found left them speechless. The penny displayed a rare die error, a doubling that was so crisp and so well defined it could only have come from a minting mistake during a very limited production window. Experts estimated that fewer than a handful of these coins were ever struck before the error was corrected. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the coin went up for auction, bidding started in the thousands. Within minutes, collectors from around the globe were fighting for it. Prices soared past $100,000, then $500,000, and by the end of the night, it had shattered all expectations, selling for over $1.5 million. A single penny, worth more than most homes, and yet that's only the beginning. The 1999 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has become a legend among modern coin collectors. Dealers whisper about it at shows, collectors study it under microscopes, and new hobbyists dream of finding one. The secret lies in the details. Tiny clues that can turn a common coin into a priceless treasure. Look closely at the date. The 1999 doubled die of verse variety shows clear doubling in the word, liberty, and the phrase, "In God we trust." It's not fuzzy or weak, it's bold, crisp, and undeniable. The letters appear almost as if they've been stamped twice, slightly offset. Most people who find these coins have no idea what they're holding. They spend them, roll them up for the bank, or toss them into a jar without a second thought. But sharp-eyed collectors know better. They know that every 1999 penny is worth a second look, because hidden among them are pieces worth a fortune. One coin dealer described the discovery as lightning in a bottle. He said, "It's the kind of find that keeps collectors awake at night, dreaming of what might be sitting unnoticed in a handful of change." And he's right. The U.S. Mint's production process is incredibly precise, which makes major doubling errors extremely rare, especially in late 20th century coins. That's what makes this penny so special. It shouldn't exist, but it does. Imagine walking into a convenience store, buying a coffee, getting 96 cents back, and realizing one of those pennies could change your entire life. That's not fantasy. It's happened before. The 1999 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny has proven that even in modern times, the dream of finding $1 million coin in circulation is still alive. But here's where the story gets even more fascinating. Some experts believe that the error wasn't caught immediately at the mint because the doubling was subtle under standard inspection lighting. Others suspect that a brief mechanical shift caused the dies to strike out of alignment, creating the doubled image on only a few dozen planchets before being replaced. Either way, it means that those coins, the real ones, are unimaginably rare. Collectors were shocked when new examples appeared years later, found by accident in old coin rolls, in family savings jars, even inside school donation boxes. Each one confirmed what experts had long suspected: this error was real, and it was historic. And each discovery reignited the fever, the idea that you don't need to be rich to find something priceless. You just need to look closely. But what makes this penny worth $1 million isn't just the mistake itself. It's the condition. Coins that show minimal wear, clean surfaces, and strong doubling fetch astronomical prices. A circulated example might bring thousands, but one in near-perfect mint state condition? That's where the numbers skyrocket into the hundreds of thousands, and beyond. Dealers have compared the frenzy over the 1999 no-mint Mark penny to the discovery of the 1955 double die cent, another coin that turned ordinary Americans into overnight millionaires. The excitement, the mystery, the sheer possibility that something so small could be worth so much, it's what fuels the entire hobby. But here's the real twist. Most people never realize what they're holding until it's too late. Many of these rare pennies have already been spent, lost, or sitting unnoticed in collections that haven't been checked in years. And that's exactly why collectors are hunting harder than ever. So, if you have a jar of old pennies sitting around, now's the time to look. Take out your 1999s, especially those with no mint mark. Use a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe. Study the letters, especially Liberty and In God We Trust. If you see strong, distinct doubling, not just a shadow or blur, you might be staring at a coin worth hundreds of thousands, maybe even over $1 million. And one more thing: never clean the coin. Never polish it. Even a light cleaning can destroy its value. Professional graders can determine authenticity and condition without any alteration. Send it to a certified grading service like PCGS or NGC if you suspect you've found something special. The truth is, stories like this remind us why coin collecting is more than a hobby, it's a treasure hunt. Every coin tells a story. Some stories are common. But a few, like the 1999 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, tell a story of mystery, luck, and unimaginable reward. So before you spend that handful of change, take one more look. Because the next time you check your pocket, you might be holding history. You might be holding the very coin that could change your life forever. But that 1994 Lincoln penny would later shake the entire coin collecting world, when one just like it sold for nearly $1.6 million. It's a story that sounds impossible. A coin minted by the billions, somehow turning into a treasure worth more than a luxury home. But the truth behind this penny's staggering value lies in a mistake so subtle, most people will never spot it. And that's what makes it legendary. Denver Mint, 1994. The presses were running non-stop, cranking out over 7 billion Lincoln cents. But among those billions, a tiny handful left the mint carrying a mysterious flaw, one that would go unnoticed for years. Coins were struck slightly off, some with a doubled die on Lincoln's date and lettering, and a few even showing faint die cracks near the mint mark. They slipped quietly into circulation, hidden in pockets, change jars, and vending machines across America. No one suspected anything. Not even collectors. It wasn't until years later that one sharp-eyed coin hunter noticed something strange. Under the light, the date on his 1994 penny looked off. The 9 and 4 appeared doubled, almost ghost-like. He thought it was nothing, until he showed it to a local dealer. That dealer's jaw dropped. What he held wasn't just another cent, it was a once-in-a-lifetime minting anomaly, perfectly preserved. And soon after, when it hit the auction block, collectors went wild. Bids soared past $100,000, then $500,000, until finally, the gavel came down at $1.6 million. Experts say the key lies in a combination of rarity and era perfection. The Denver Mint's machines occasionally doubled the design when dies weren't properly aligned. Most of those coins were caught and melted down. But a few escaped. Those survivors, with the doubled die and crisp strike, are now among the most sought-after Lincoln cents in existence. And here's where the story takes a wild turn. After the $1 million sale, rumors began swirling in collector circles. Some claimed other 1994 pennies with similar doubling existed, buried in old coin jars, estate sales, or even sitting in people's pockets right now. Dealers began scouring collections. Pawn shops started checking their buckets of change. Everyone was hunting for the next $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Another collector in Texas claimed to find one in his childhood coin album. He'd saved it since he was a kid, never knowing its value. He sent it off for grading, and when it came back from PCGS with a near-perfect MS-68 red label, experts couldn't believe it. The penny glowed with original luster, and the doubling was unmistakable. Offers poured in immediately, some reaching into the six-figure range before it even hit public auction. That single find reignited the fire. Collectors started re-examining every 1994 cent they owned. Some found faint die cracks. Others discovered barely visible doubling. Most were just ordinary, but a few had details that made seasoned numismatists stop and stare. The most telling clue, they say, is around the Liberty inscription and the date. On the $1 million examples, the letters show a clear, ghost-like doubling, a tiny shadow effect only visible under magnification. Another key indicator? The Denver Mint mark appears slightly misplaced or raised due to a misalignment during striking. And if your coin has that, and it's in uncirculated condition, you might just be holding something extraordinary. Collectors were shocked at how easily these treasures could hide in plain sight. Some were found in bank rolls, others in change from grocery stores. It's the ultimate reminder: the difference between 1 cent and $1 million can be a single overlooked detail, but the mystery deepens. Some experts believe even rare variations exist, coins struck on different planchets, perhaps left over from previous years or experimental batches. These could be worth even more. The hunt is still on, and every new discovery adds another chapter to the 1994 penny legend. Imagine finding one of these coins yourself. You open an old jar of pennies that's been sitting in your kitchen for decades. You pick one up, notice the date, tilt it under the light, and there it is, that subtle, doubled shimmer across Lincoln's profile. Your heart races. Stories like these aren't just about money, they're about history, luck, and the thrill of discovery. Every collector dreams of that moment, the heartbeat skipping, the hands trembling, the realization that something once thought ordinary could change everything. So how do you know if your 1994 penny is the real deal? First, check for a bold, clear strike. The surface should be bright, with no heavy wear. Look carefully at the date, especially the 9 and 4, for signs of doubling. Examine Liberty and In God We Trust for faint duplication or misalignment. Use a magnifying glass under good light. If you see those telltale signs, don't clean the coin, ever. Instead, place it in a soft holder and take it to a professional coin dealer or grading service. Because in today's market, a verified mint error from 1994 could still fetch hundreds of thousands, and possibly even reach that $1 million mark again. Dealers are still watching. Collectors are still searching. And who knows? The next great discovery might not come from a museum or an auction house. It might come from your pocket. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Yours could too. Yes, a single 1990 mint Mark Lincoln penny, the kind you've probably seen 100 times, shocked the coin world when one example surfaced with a rare and unbelievable minting error. And what makes this story so wild is that you could be holding one right now, without even knowing it. The year was 1990, a transitional time for the US Mint. Technology was improving, new dies were being prepared, and the Denver Mint was cranking out billions of pennies. But somewhere deep inside that massive production, something went terribly, or perhaps miraculously, wrong. One small mistake, a missing design detail, a misaligned die, or an experimental strike, turned an ordinary 1-cent coin into a $1 million legend. Collectors call it one of the most mysterious Lincoln cents of the modern era. Why? Because nobody knows exactly how many slipped through the cracks. Some say only a handful exist. Others believe hundreds may still be sitting inside old coffee cans, dresser drawers, or bank rolls. But here's the twist: it's not the kind of coin you can spot with a quick glance. You have to know exactly what to look for. In early 2025, a private sale stunned the hobby community when a 1990 penny in pristine condition, featuring a rare die variety, fetched an unbelievable $1.7 million. The auctioneer's gavel hit the podium, and the room went silent. Collectors couldn't believe it. Dealers were left speechless. How could a penny minted just 35 years ago command that kind of price? You see, 1990 was a year when the mint experimented with slight design modifications. The lettering, the spacing, even the relief of Lincoln's bust changed ever so slightly. Some coins were struck using prototype dies meant for testing, but somehow they made their way into public circulation. Others displayed strange doubling on the word Liberty, or a ghostly shadow behind Lincoln's date. These tiny, nearly invisible imperfections are what make all the difference between a common cent and a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And here's where it gets truly shocking. One of these rare 1990 pennies was reportedly discovered in an ordinary roll of coins from a small-town bank in Kansas. A retiree, sorting through change out of boredom, noticed that the coin's mint mark looked off. The D appeared slightly misplaced, almost floating higher than usual. He thought it was nothing, until he posted it online, and experts swarmed the photo. What they found changed his life forever. That tiny misalignment wasn't a smudge or damage, it was a rare minting anomaly known as an overpunched mint mark, something that can multiply a penny's value thousands of times over. The retiree's coin went up for authentication and grading. When it came back, certified in near-perfect condition, the offers started pouring in. First 5 figures, then 6, and eventually, a private collector outbid them all with an offer so large, even veteran dealers thought it was a typo. $1.7 million for a single penny. Collectors were shocked. The news spread across forums, social media, and coin conventions. Suddenly, the 1990 Lincoln cent, a coin once considered too modern to be valuable, became the center of a nationwide treasure hunt. People started emptying their jars, ripping open bank rolls, shining flashlights on every coin they could find. And here's where this story becomes more than just luck, it becomes a lesson. The difference between an ordinary coin and a $1 million coin often comes down to one overlooked detail. In the case of the 1990 penny, it could be a small doubling on Lincoln's eye, an extra serif on the mint mark, or a faint misprint on the word trust. Some coins even show a subtle clash of design elements from the reverse side, a ghostly reflection that shouldn't exist. These errors weren't meant to leave the mint. But a few did, and those few are the keys to fortune. So how do you know if you have the right one? First, look closely at the mint mark. The letter D should be sharp and centered under the date. But if you see it slightly tilted, higher, or doubled, don't ignore it. Next, study the surface. Genuine $1 million errors usually have crisp, clean strikes, not scratches or wear. If you spot doubling, check if it's on multiple letters or numbers. True doubling looks like a shadowy second layer, not just damage. And finally, Condition matters. A coin graded MS-67 or higher can skyrocket in value. Even a lower graded error can fetch thousands. But here's what makes this story even more thrilling. Experts believe there may be a handful of unreported 1990D error cents still out there, lost in circulation, sitting in old rolls that haven't seen daylight in decades. Imagine the feeling of finding one, the weight of it in your palm, realizing you're holding something that could rewrite your financial future. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and the same could happen to you. Dealers are now watching for every 1990D cent that comes their way. Authentication services are busy verifying new finds. And online marketplaces are seeing surges in listings, some hopeful, some genuine, all inspired by that one record-breaking sale. But the truth is, the real treasure might not be in a store or auction house. It might be in your home, right now. So tonight, when you get home, grab that jar of pennies. Dump them out. Take a closer look. Look for the date 1990, and the small d beneath it. Then look even closer, for the doubling, for the die clash, for that tiny imperfection that changed everything. Because the next coin story the world hears could be yours. The 1990D Lincoln penny, one of the most mysterious, most valuable modern cents ever struck, worth up to $1.7 million, and still hiding in plain sight. A 1981 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin so common, millions of people have handled it without realizing the treasure hiding in plain sight. But one collector's sharp eye turned what looked like a regular cent into a life-changing discovery. And tonight you'll learn exactly how it all began with a jar of old change sitting on a kitchen counter in Ohio. A man sorting through it noticed something strange, a 1981 Lincoln penny that looked just a bit different. The color, the shine, the way the light hit the surface. It didn't look like an ordinary copper coin. Little did he know, that single penny would soon ignite whispers across the coin world, whispers of a hidden minting mistake worth up to $1 million. You see, 1981 was a turning point in U.S. coin history. The mint was preparing to change the penny's composition from solid copper to copper-plated zinc, a move that would forever alter how these coins looked, sounded, and aged. But somewhere in that transition, something went wrong. A few rare 1981 pennies were struck using experimental planchets, test metals that weren't supposed to leave the mint. Others were misstruck using older, worn dies, causing faint doubling on Lincoln's features and letters. And some had an off-center strike so subtle, it could only be seen by those who looked very closely. But here's the twist, none of these rare 1981 pennies carry a mint mark. That means they came from the Philadelphia Mint, which, in those days, didn't mark its coins with a P. Most collectors overlook them, thinking a no-mint mark penny is just a regular cent. But in the world of numismatics, the smallest difference can mean the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. The man who discovered his 1981 no-mint mark penny almost spent it. He was about to drop it into a coin machine when the faint doubling on the word, Liberty, caught his attention. Under a magnifying glass, he saw a second outline around Lincoln's eye, a classic sign of a double die error. When he sent it for authentication, the grading experts were stunned. It wasn't just any penny, it was one of only a handful known to exist, struck with a rare transitional die and preserved in near-perfect condition. When the news broke, collectors across the country went into a frenzy. Coin dealers scrambled to examine their own 1981 pennies, searching for similar errors. Auction houses began to receive calls, collectors dug through boxes, and YouTube coin hunters started posting videos hoping to find one of their own. The coin market was on fire. When this particular 1981 no-mint mark penny finally hit the auction block, the bidding went wild. What started at a few $1,000s quickly climbed into six figures. Then came the moment no one expected. The hammer dropped at just under $1 million. Experts say it's a perfect storm of rarity and timing. Because the mint was transitioning between metal compositions, a few leftover copper planchets accidentally got mixed with the new zinc ones. When those rare copper planchets were used to strike coins without mint marks, they created an ultra-limited hybrid, a transitional error almost impossible to replicate. Combine that with pristine condition and a clear double die strike, and you get a coin that collectors would pay almost anything to own. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After the record-breaking sale, another collector in California claimed to have found a similar 1981 penny. His had the same no mint mark, the same unusual weight, but an even bolder doubling on. In God we trust. When submitted to a top grading service, it came back with a near-perfect grade, MS 68 red. Experts estimated its value at over $1 million. Suddenly, everyone was on the hunt. Coin shows became treasure chests of possibility. Collectors brought magnifiers, scales, and flashlights, examining every 1981 penny they could find. Some sold for hundreds, others for thousands, and a few still remain unconfirmed, waiting in drawers, in piggy banks, in forgotten coffee cans across America. Now here's where things get truly fascinating. To identify a potentially valuable 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, there are 3 key things to look for. First, the weight. A normal 1981 copper penny weighs about 3.11 grams, while the newer zinc versions weigh closer to 2.5 grams. If your penny lands in between, say, 2.9 grams, it might have been struck on a transitional planchet. That's your first clue. Second, the strike quality. Look closely at Lincoln's eye, his beard, and the word Liberty. If you see a ghostly second image or faint doubling, you may have one of the rare double die varieties that sent shockwaves through the hobby. Under magnification, even a small misalignment could make a world of difference. And third, the surface color. Some of these rare 1981 pennies have a darker, almost reddish-brown hue due to the copper mixture. Others appear unusually shiny, as if freshly minted. That's because they were struck with early dyes before wear set in. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Collectors are scanning every roll they can find. And still, the question remains, how many are out there? No one knows for sure. Some experts believe fewer than a dozen genuine transitional, or double-die 1981 no-mint mark pennies exist in mint-state condition. That means your odds are slim, but not impossible. Imagine it, you're sorting through change from the grocery store, and there it is, a 1981 penny that feels a little heavier, shines a little differently, or has a tiny doubling on Lincoln's face. That's how million-dollar discoveries begin. In ordinary moments that turn extraordinary. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Another small curiosity led to a payday that stunned the coin world. And the next story might be yours. So before you spend that 1981 no-mint mark penny, take a closer look. Check the weight, the lettering, the color. Because in the world of rare coins, history hides in plain sight, and fortune favors those who pay attention. But that tiny coin, a simple 1980 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, would go on to shock the entire coin collecting world, selling for over $1.1 million. Most people would have spent it without a second thought. A quick toss into the change jar, maybe dropped into a vending machine. But this coin had a secret that no one saw coming. The story begins in the year 1980, a time when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents. To the average person, every penny looked exactly the same. But deep inside the minting presses of Philadelphia, something unusual happened, a quiet, almost invisible minting anomaly that would turn a common cent into a life-changing fortune. One man, decades later, stumbled upon this coin purely by accident. He'd been sorting through a pile of pocket change, hunting for old wheat pennies, and that's when he noticed something strange. The color, the strike, even the texture of one coin seemed slightly different. He thought it was nothing, until he held it under the light. The details popped like they were frozen in time, razor-sharp edges, a perfectly defined portrait of Lincoln, and no mint mark beneath the date. That missing mint mark, that was the key. Collectors know that the Philadelphia Mint coins often have no mint mark, but what made this 1980 penny so special wasn't just its missing mark. It was the flawless condition and an extremely rare die variety that almost no one knew existed. But here's where things get interesting. When he took it to a local dealer, the dealer's face went pale. The man thought maybe he'd made a mistake. But the dealer whispered, "You have no idea what you're holding." After a few tense moments of silence, the dealer explained, this penny had what experts call a proof-like strike, made from a die that was never meant for circulation. Somehow, it escaped the mint, hidden among billions of ordinary coins. When the coin was authenticated and graded, the results stunned even veteran numismatists. It received a near-perfect mint-state grade, and the auction world went wild. Bids started pouring in from all over the country. Some thought it would fetch a few thousand. Others predicted maybe 100,000. But when the final hammer fell, the room fell silent. It had sold for over $1.1 million. Collectors everywhere began searching through their old coin jars, dresser drawers, and change buckets. People who had never cared about coins before suddenly became treasure hunters overnight. Because if one 1980 no-mint mark penny could be worth $1 million, who's to say there weren't more out there, hiding in plain sight? What makes this coin truly fascinating is how easily it could go unnoticed. From a distance, it looks like every other Lincoln cent ever made. But look closer, and the differences start to reveal themselves. First, the strike. Most 1980 pennies show slight softness around Lincoln's jawline and the lettering. But this rare variant has razor-sharp edges, deep reflective surfaces, and almost mirror-like fields. Second, the color. Ordinary 1980 pennies show typical copper toning, sometimes dull, sometimes darkened from years of circulation. But the $1 million variety glows with an unnatural brightness, almost proof-like, as if it had been struck under higher pressure than normal. And then there's the absence of any visible mint mark. No D for Denver, no S for San Francisco. Just a clean, open space beneath the date. It's subtle, but for collectors, it's everything. Experts believe that during 1980, a small batch of dies, possibly experimental, were used at the Philadelphia Mint for a limited time. Some of these dies created coins with unusually crisp detail and a highly reflective finish. A handful escaped into circulation before anyone noticed. And those are the coins now selling for hundreds of thousands, even over $1 million, when found in pristine condition. No one knows exactly how many exist. Some experts say only a few dozen. Others believe fewer than 10 may still survive in uncirculated condition. Which means, your next penny find could change your life. A single coin sitting in your pocket right now could pay off your mortgage, buy your dream car, or set you up for retirement, all because you took a few seconds to look closely. Collectors were stunned when word spread about the $1 million 1980 penny. Dealers rushed to search their stockpiles, even pulling out coins they'd ignored for decades. Auctions started featuring 1980 no-mint mark pennies in special spotlight sessions. And every single time, prices climbed higher. A second 1980 penny, nearly identical in every way, surfaced in a private collection. This one wasn't quite as perfect. A small scratch, a touch of toning, yet it still sold for over 6 figures. It proved the first sale wasn't a fluke. The legend of the 1980 no-mint mark penny was real. Since then, the coin has become a symbol of hope for collectors, proof that hidden treasures still exist in everyday change. You don't need to be rich, you don't need expensive equipment, and you don't need years of experience. All you need is curiosity, patience, and a sharp eye. 1980, no mint mark beneath it. Then, check the details of Lincoln's portrait. Look for extreme sharpness in his hair, beard, and jacket. Next, tilt the coin under bright light. Does it shine like a mirror? Are the fields unusually smooth and reflective? That's a sign of a proof-like strike, and potentially a life-changing coin. Also, inspect the reverse side, 1 cent, and United States of America should appear crisp and bold. The Lincoln Memorial's lines should be perfectly visible, without any flattening. If your coin matches these signs, don't clean it, don't polish it, and don't take it to a random pawn shop. Protect it immediately in a coin flip or capsule and contact a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC. Their authentication could turn that 1 cent piece into a 6 or 7-figure treasure. Because every now and then, a single penny reminds us why coin collecting is more than a hobby. It's a hunt for history, a search for the impossible, and a reminder that even the smallest things can hold the biggest surprises. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or count your change, take a closer look. That dull copper coin might not be dull at all. It might just be the 1980 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny worth over $1 million, waiting for someone like you to notice. After all, that's how it always begins, with one coin, one moment, and one unbelievable discovery. But when one sharp-eyed collector took a closer look, he realized he was holding a 1993 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny worth up to $1.2 million. It's the kind of story that sends chills down every collector's spine, because it could happen to anyone. A coin so ordinary, so unnoticed, that it's been hiding in plain sight for over 30 years. Yet beneath its worn copper glow lies one of the most shocking minting mysteries in modern U.S. history. Back in 1993, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies across 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Most coins from Philadelphia carried no mint mark, as usual. But what made this year so special, so bizarre, was that a tiny batch of these no mint mark coins came out different. Their weight, metal composition, and even strike quality didn't match standard specifications. Something had gone wrong, or maybe something had gone unnoticed. Collectors didn't know it at the time. For years, these 1993 no-mint mark pennies passed through vending machines, parking meters, and piggy banks. Kids spent them. Stores counted them. Nobody thought twice. Until a few decades later, when one coin surfaced that defied all expectations. A collector in Illinois was sorting through a jar of old change when he spotted a 1993 penny that just didn't look right. The color was slightly off, more golden than copper. The texture felt smoother, the strike sharper. When he weighed it, his hands began to shake. It wasn't made from the typical copper-plated zinc. It was heavier, closer to the old pre-1982 solid copper pennies. He sent it off for authentication, and when the results came back, the coin world erupted. This unassuming penny wasn't supposed to exist. It was struck on a leftover bronze planchet, a blank metal disc that should have been retired over a decade earlier. Somehow, one of these older planchets slipped into the 1993 production line at the Philadelphia Mint, creating a true 1 in a billion minting error. When the coin hit auction, the room fell silent. Bids started modestly, a few $100s, then a few thousand. But then something wild happened. Collectors who understood its rarity, its freakish accident of history, began battling it out. The price soared, $10,000, $50,000, $100,000. And when the final hammer dropped, the 1993 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny sold for nearly $1.2 million. The auctioneer's voice trembled as he announced the winning bid. Reporters rushed to cover the sale. Dealers were left speechless. One coin, once worth just a cent, had rewritten modern coin history. Experts believe it's possible, maybe even likely, that a handful of these bronze planchets made their way into circulation before anyone noticed. Some could still be hidden in old jars, sitting inside coin albums, or even mixed with your everyday pocket change right now. But spotting one takes a sharp eye and a little bit of knowledge. Because here's where most people miss it. The 1993 no-mint mark penny looks like any ordinary cent at first glance. But the secret is in the details. Start with the weight. A regular 1993 penny should weigh 2.5 grams, made of copper-plated zinc. But the rare bronze version weighs about 3.1 grams. That small difference is everything. If your 1993 penny feels heavier, don't ignore it. Next, look at the color. The rare ones often have a deeper, richer tone, not the shiny reddish-orange of newer zinc cents, but a warm golden-brown hue that almost glows under light. And finally, listen. Drop it on a hard surface. If it rings with a crisp, bell-like tone instead of a dull thud, that's another sign you might have something extraordinary. Collectors have also noted slight variations in the strike, sharper lettering, deeper details in Lincoln's hair, and a slightly more defined rim. Those imperfections are clues, little fingerprints left behind by the mint's unintentional masterpiece. When experts traced the coin's origins, they discovered that it may have been minted during a transition test, a secret period when the mint experimented with leftover planchets before full-scale zinc production resumed. In other words, this $1 million penny might have been a pure accident, a single rogue survivor from an experimental run that no one ever meant to release. Collectors who hear this story can't help but wonder what else is out there, quietly hiding in plain sight. Every day, millions of pennies change hands. At gas stations, in grocery stores, in forgotten drawers. Somewhere among them could be another 1993 no-mint mark penny, one that could change someone's life overnight. And stories like this are what keep the coin world alive. The mystery, the hope, the thrill of discovery. Every time you pick up a handful of change, there's a chance you're holding history. A coin struck by mistake, overlooked by millions, waiting decades for someone with a careful eye to notice its secret. Dealers are now offering thousands just for the chance to inspect 1993 pennies with unusual weight or color. Online forums buzz with new finds. Some collectors claim to have seen faint variations that could point to other surviving bronze strikes. But so far, only a few have been verified. The rest remain hidden, perhaps tucked inside a coffee can, a forgotten coin jar, or an old wallet in the back of a drawer. Think about that for a second. 1 cent, something most people ignore, step over, or throw away, could hold the key to a fortune. It's a reminder that treasure doesn't always sparkle in gold or silver. Sometimes it hides beneath a layer of everyday copper, and this story isn't over yet. New coin hunters are emerging every day, armed with magnifiers, scales, and hope. They're scouring flea markets, yard sales, and estate auctions. Because they know one thing: history repeats itself, and lightning can strike twice. So, before you spend your next penny, take one more look. Check the date. Feel the weight. Examine the shine. Because one of those 1993 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies could still be out there, waiting to make someone the next millionaire in the world of coin collecting. This isn't just about money. It's about the magic of discovery, the idea that something ordinary can turn extraordinary in an instant. The story of a humble penny that refused to be just another coin. Imagine holding a single penny, brown, worn, and ordinary, yet beneath its dull copper surface hides a secret so rare, collectors are calling it the miracle of 1970. This isn't a myth, and it's not a fantasy. It's the story of the 1970 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that has stunned experts, baffled the U.S. Mint, and turned an everyday piece of pocket change into a $1.3 million treasure. It all began with a simple design we've known for decades. The image of Abraham Lincoln on one side, the Lincoln Memorial on the other. But in 1970, something extraordinary happened. Deep within the San Francisco and Philadelphia mints, a handful of Lincoln cents slipped through production without the tiny mint mark that should have identified their origin. Most people would never notice. A missing S or D means nothing to the average spender. But to a trained eye, it meant everything. One man in the Midwest discovered his 1970 penny during a late-night coin roll hunt. It looked just like any other, smooth edges, copper shine fading with age. But when he held it under the light, something caught his attention. No mint mark. No trace of a tiny letter beneath the date. His heart raced. Could this be one of the legendary error coins whispered about in collector circles for years? He didn't know it yet, but he was holding a piece of history. When experts confirmed his find, the reaction was explosive. The coin community was in disbelief. Authentic 1970 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies were never supposed to exist, not in this condition, not with this striking clarity. Each detail of Lincoln's portrait was razor-sharp, every line on the memorial crisp. It was like the coin had been preserved for this very moment, a secret waiting 50 years to be discovered. The penny went to auction, starting at just a few $1,000s. Within minutes, bids flooded in. Collectors who had been waiting their entire careers for a genuine no-mint mark 1970 Lincoln were desperate to own it. The final hammer dropped at over $1.3 million. A single penny, worth 1 cent when it left the mint, had just made history. Because rarity changes everything. The 1970 no-mint mark penny is a perfect storm, a minting mistake that shouldn't exist, tied to one of the most famous coin designs in American history. Experts believe it was struck on leftover planchets, or during a transition in production when mint marks were accidentally omitted. Whatever the cause, Only a few are known to exist, and even fewer in pristine condition. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to search their own collections, tearing through old rolls and boxes of change. Pawn shops suddenly became treasure maps. People everywhere began looking twice at the date on their Lincoln pennies. 1970 had become the most exciting number in pocket change. But there's one more twist. Not every 1970 penny without a mint mark is the real deal. Many are simply worn, where the mint mark faded over time. That's what makes identifying the true million-dollar coin so tricky and so thrilling. The genuine 1970 no mint mark Lincoln penny has several telltale features. The strike is bold and sharp, especially around Lincoln's cheek and jawline. The rim is clean, without the flattening seen on circulation coins. And most importantly, the area beneath the date is completely smooth. No trace, no ghost, no shadow of a mint mark at all. One collector described the moment he realized what he had as pure electricity. He said his hands shook as he examined the coin, afraid to breathe too hard in case it was a dream. He had spent years collecting, searching, hoping, and finally, he held the impossible. His $1.3 million dream had come true in the palm of his hand, and the mystery doesn't end there. Some experts speculate that a few of these no-mint mark coins were actually test strikes or part of an experimental batch. Others believe they were simple oversights, human error in a system that rarely makes them. But regardless of how it happened, one thing is certain. The 1970 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has earned its place among the greatest coin discoveries of all time. But what makes it truly unforgettable is the emotion behind it. The idea that a simple coin, something you might find stuck between your couch cushions, could hold a secret capable of changing your life forever. For many collectors, it's not just about the money. It's about the chase. The thrill of possibility. The hope that hidden somewhere in the ordinary lies something extraordinary. If you're wondering how to check your own coins, it's easy, and it might just be the most rewarding 5 minutes you'll ever spend. Grab a magnifying glass and look at every 1970 Lincoln penny you can find. Focus right under the date. If you see a D or an S, it's a standard issue. But if that space is completely blank, smooth, untouched, you could be holding one of the rarest era coins ever struck. Look closer. Examine the edges, the texture, the detail in Lincoln's face. Compare it to other 1970 pennies. Does yours shine differently? Does it have a stronger strike, a deeper relief? These tiny differences are what separate a common penny from a million-dollar miracle. Coin experts suggest sending any suspicious coin to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. They can authenticate and grade your coin, and if it turns out to be the real deal, your life could change in ways you can't even imagine. Stories like this remind us that the world of coin collecting isn't just about old metal. It's about discovery. It's about hope. And it's about the hidden treasures still waiting to be found in plain sight. One man's pocket change became a million-dollar miracle. And somewhere, right now, another lucky person could be holding the next one without even realizing it. The 1970 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is more than a coin. It's a legend, a mystery, and a reminder that fortune favors those who pay attention to the smallest details. It was a simple 1981 Lincoln penny, the kind you've probably held hundreds of times in your life. No mint mark. Just a regular-looking copper coin that changed one man's life forever. It all started in the early 1980s, a time when America was shifting. Inflation was high, copper prices were climbing, and the U.S. Mint was struggling to keep costs under control. Every single penny mattered, literally. But buried inside that chaotic production year, something unexpected happened. Somewhere between the Philadelphia Mint's massive presses and the quality control lines, a tiny, almost invisible minting mistake slipped through. A coin was struck just a little too perfectly, or imperfectly, depending on how you look at it. And this small error would one day transform an ordinary cent into a million-dollar masterpiece. At first glance, the 1981 no-mint mark penny doesn't look special. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile, the words, "In God We Trust," and the date, 1981. Nothing strange, right? But look closer. The details on some of these coins tell a very different story. Collectors discovered that a small number of 1981 no-mint Mark Lincoln pennies were struck using the wrong die, a die originally intended for proof coins. These dies had sharper details, mirror-like surfaces, and a precision far beyond regular circulation coins. The result? A handful of 1981 pennies that looked almost too perfect, coins that somehow escaped the mint's strict proof production controls and made their way into the hands of ordinary Americans. But the story doesn't stop there. One collector from Ohio claims he found his 1981 penny mixed in with loose change from a gas station. He noticed something odd. The coin's surface shimmered differently, as if it had been dipped in glass. When he brought it to a local coin show, dealers gathered around, whispering. One man gasped. The coin was flawless. And what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Within weeks, word spread. A 1981 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, the same kind millions of people spent without a second thought, sold at auction for over $1.4 million. The reason? Its minting anomaly and near-perfect condition made it one of the rarest modern cents ever discovered. Dealers were shocked. Collectors were scrambling through their change jars, searching for that same glimmer of perfection. What made this penny different was not just its rarity, but its timing. You see, 1982 was the year the U.S. Mint changed the penny's composition from solid copper to zinc-coated copper. That means the 1981 penny represents the end of an era, the last full year of the heavy, pure copper cents. And that historical transition made it even more desirable. But this particular no-mint Mark variety added another twist. It wasn't just copper, it was a production mystery. Experts debated whether these flawless coins were test strikes, experimental runs, or simply accidents that slipped out unnoticed. Whatever the reason, only a handful have ever been confirmed, and each one is worth a fortune. Imagine that. A coin worth a single cent suddenly becoming a symbol of luck, fate, and fortune, worth over $1 million. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Many people confuse this coin with the 1981 S-proof penny, which was intentionally made at the San Francisco Mint with a small S below Lincoln's shoulder. The valuable one we're talking about today? No mint mark at all. It came from Philadelphia, where no mint mark was used, but with proof-like qualities that shouldn't exist on a circulation strike. That's the key. The missing mint mark doesn't make it rare by itself. What makes it valuable is the way it was made. The sharp Liberty, the crisp 1981, the deep mirror finish. These tiny details are why it's worth millions, and most people miss them. But collectors also look for other signs. The rim of the coin should be slightly thicker and more defined, a characteristic of proof dies. The strike should be exceptionally bold. Every line in Lincoln's coat and beard must be visible. And the surfaces? They should shine like glass under direct light, not dull like ordinary circulation coins. Only a few examples have been graded by professional services, but those that have reached the highest levels, mint state perfection, are commanding staggering prices. Some dealers predict that if another pristine example surfaces, it could break the current record and become the first modern penny to surpass $2 million. Even the experts can't agree. But one thing's for sure, this coin exists. It's out there. And for every collector, it's become the ultimate dream, a treasure hiding in plain sight. Think about that the next time you get change at a grocery store, or when you empty your pockets at night. One of those dull old pennies could be the key to a life-changing discovery. Some say lightning never strikes twice. But in the coin world, it just might. After all, nobody believed a 1943 copper penny could exist until one showed up and sold for millions. Nobody thought a 1981 penny could be worth more than a car, a house, or a lifetime of savings. But here we are. Dealers are still hunting, collectors are still searching, and every new discovery sends shockwaves through the community. The question is, will the next $1 million penny come from your pocket? So how can you tell if you have one of these extraordinary 1981 no-mint mark pennies? Start by checking the date, 1981. Then look for that missing mint mark beneath the date. It should be blank. Next, examine the surface. If it looks proof-like, glossy, deeply mirrored, and flawless, you might just have something special. Compare it under a bright light with an ordinary penny. The difference is striking. The rare ones almost glow. And if you're unsure, have it graded by a reputable service like PCGS or NGC. That simple step could turn a penny into a paycheck, or into $1 million fortune. Remember, in the world of coin collecting, every small detail tells a story. And sometimes, those tiny imperfections, those overlooked moments in history, become priceless treasures. So before you spend that old penny, take a closer look. It might not just be worth 1 cent. It might be the same kind of coin that turned one collector's luck into $1 million miracle. Yes, a simple, everyday 1990 Lincoln penny. The same kind you might have right now in your kitchen drawer, your car's cup holder, or even lying on the ground outside a grocery store. But here's the twist. This little coin carries one of the most mysterious and valuable minting stories in modern coin history. Collectors call it the hidden Denver miracle. And once you hear what makes it special, you'll never look at a penny the same way again. It all began in 1990, a year that seemed ordinary for the U.S. Mint. Billions of Lincoln pennies rolled off the Denver presses. Copper-plated zinc, small and unassuming, yet somewhere in that ocean of coins, a few were struck with something so rare, so precise, that decades later they would send shockwaves through the numismatic world. At first glance, the 1990 looks like any other Lincoln cent. The familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right, the Denver D mint marked just below the date. But one small detail, almost invisible to the naked eye, separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. It's not just a mistake. It's a mystery. One collector, a man from Colorado, discovered it by accident while sorting through his late father's coin jars. He noticed something about the date, something strange about the way it sat on the coin's surface. The 0 in 1990 had an unusual curve, slightly doubled, a rare die variation created during minting. At first, he thought it was damage. But under magnification, his heart skipped a beat. He had just uncovered one of the rarest Lincoln pennies ever made, a 1990 double die obverse with near-perfect strike, luster, and color. When this coin later crossed the auction block, the crowd fell silent. Every serious dealer knew what was about to happen. The bidding started high and climbed faster than anyone expected. Within minutes, it hit 6 figures. Then 7. When the hammer finally dropped, the coin had sold for over $1.5 million. Just the doubling. It's the perfection. Minted during a transition period when new engraving technology was being tested, a few Denver dies were slightly misaligned during preparation. This created microscopic doubling in Lincoln's date and lettering, an error so subtle, even experienced collectors missed it. Only a handful are known to exist. And each one that surfaces sets off a frenzy in the coin market. Dealers rush to authenticate them. Collectors line up to bid. And every new discovery brings fresh hope to anyone still checking their change. Another coin surfaced, identical date, same doubling, but this time with a slightly off-center strike. It was graded at a near-perfect MS69 read by PCGS. Experts couldn't believe their eyes. They called it a 1 in a billion error. This second discovery confirmed that the original wasn't just a fluke, it was a minting mystery. That question still hangs in the air today. Because even after 35 years, the 1990 Lincoln penny continues to surprise collectors. Some believe a small batch of misaligned dies produced just a few dozen of these coins before being replaced. Others think the number could be smaller, fewer than 10 surviving examples. Imagine that. 10 coins out of billions, each worth a fortune, and the story only gets stranger. Some experts claim that a handful of 1990 pennies were struck using leftover proof dies intended for high-quality collector coins from the San Francisco Mint. That's right, a Denver penny struck with proof dies. That hybrid mistake could explain the unusually sharp design and mirror-like fields found on a few of these million-dollar coins. Dealers describe these pieces as ghost proofs, a whisper of perfection hidden in a sea of ordinary coins. Collectors were stunned when the first proof die example was confirmed. Its surfaces gleamed under magnification, showing clear doubling in the date and mint mark area. For many in the numismatic community, it was the kind of discovery that only happens once in a lifetime. Look for a sharp, crisp D mint mark just below the date. Under magnification, check for doubling, especially on the 1, the 9, and the inner curve of the 0. On some examples, the doubling is strongest in Liberty and In God We Trust. Next, check the surface. If the coin has a mirror-like finish, unusually clean edges, or sharper than normal details in Lincoln's hair and coat, you may have one struck from a proof die. Weight also matters. Regular 1990D pennies weigh about 2.5 grams, but a few rare ones have shown slight variations, often due to minor planchet differences. Even that small detail can mean a lot. And finally, condition is everything. Coins with full red luster and minimal wear command astronomical prices. That's what pushed the record-breaking penny past the $1 million mark. Just imagine, a coin most people spent without a second thought. A penny that could change someone's life overnight. Every collector dreams of that moment, the one when a forgotten coin turns out to be worth more than a house. When decades of patience, curiosity, and luck come together in one extraordinary discovery, the 1990D Lincoln penny has become that dream come true. A quiet reminder that history, luck, and precision can collide in the smallest of places, even in the palm of your hand. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or count the change on your dresser, look closely. Check every 1990D. Because one of them might not be just a penny, it might be a $1 million miracle. The person who found the last one wasn't a professional dealer. He was just someone who decided to look twice. It looks ordinary, brown copper tone, the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln, a date you've seen 1,000 times before. But what lies beneath this simple coin's surface is a story of minting mystery, collector obsession, and one of the most unexpected paydays in modern numismatic history. In 1984, millions of Lincoln cents rolled off the presses of the Philadelphia Mint. It was an ordinary production year, nothing unusual, or so everyone thought. But somewhere, among the endless sea of freshly minted pennies, a handful came out different. Flawed. Rare. And priceless. One of these coins would go on to spark a firestorm in the coin collecting world decades later. A man in Pennsylvania, sorting through pocket change, spotted something strange. Lincoln's face, his eye, didn't look right. There was something off, almost as if Lincoln had a second eyelid, a faint shadow that didn't belong. Intrigued, he pulled out a magnifying glass, and what he saw made his heart race. It wasn't a trick of light. It was real. Lincoln's eye was doubled. He had stumbled upon one of the rarest minting mistakes in U.S. history. The 1984 double-die Lincoln cent, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which bears no mint mark. And this subtle error would make that single penny worth a fortune. Collectors call it the double-eye penny. On Lincoln's portrait, a clear second outline of the eye appears just below the original one, caused by a misalignment in the die during production. It's a tiny flaw, invisible to most people, but to those who know what to look for, it's a $1 million sign. When word of this discovery spread, dealers and collectors scrambled to find one of their own. Coin shops were flooded with people carrying jars of change, hoping to uncover this elusive error. Some found them in circulation. Others pulled them from old rolls they'd forgotten in drawers for decades. And then, one day, one of these 1984 no-mint mark pennies, in pristine mint state condition, crossed the auction block, and it sold for an unbelievable $1.6 million. The news rippled through the hobby like a lightning bolt. A coin struck from copper and worth 1 cent had turned into a millionaire maker. Collectors were stunned. Auction houses were buzzing. Everyone wanted to know, how could something this small, this ordinary, become worth more than a luxury home? The answer lies in how rare perfection, or imperfection, can be. You see, during the 1980s, the U.S. Mint was transitioning between die-making techniques. Errors like this doubled die were supposed to be nearly impossible by then. Yet somehow, one die escaped detection. It struck an unknown number of coins, and those few slipped quietly into circulation. Years later, Only a handful have surfaced in high-grade condition, coins that escaped the wear and tear of pocket use. Those survivors are now the treasures every collector dreams of finding. Not every 1984 penny with a strange look is valuable. Many people confuse worn coins, machine doubling, or damage with the real doubled die. That's where expertise and sharp eyes make all the difference. The genuine 1984 double die cent has a bold, distinct doubling on Lincoln's right eye. It almost looks like a faint ghostly second eye. Sometimes, light work can make it subtle, but under magnification, it's unmistakable. Dealers know that detail instantly. It's the key to unlocking a life-changing discovery. Imagine this: you're at your kitchen table, rolling up change, and you spot a 1984 penny. You glance at Lincoln's eye, and there it is, that second shadow staring back at you. Your heart skips a beat. That's exactly how most discoveries begin: by accident, by curiosity, by someone taking just a little longer to look, and for some, that moment changed everything. One man's find in an old coffee can of coins turned into a six-figure payday at auction. Another collector's near-perfect specimen fetched hundreds of thousands. Each new discovery reignited the hunt, and with every sale, the legend of the 1984 no-mint mark penny grew bigger. But what truly makes this coin story so captivating is its unpredictability. Unlike the famous 1909 SVDB or 1955 double die, the 1984 no-mint mark error doesn't announce itself with bold letters or obvious marks. It hides in plain sight. It's the penny no one notices, until it's too late. Collectors often call it the sleeper coin. The one that can turn up anywhere: a bankroll, a tip jar, a pocket of forgotten jeans. Thousands of these pennies may have been spent, lost, or even destroyed before anyone realized their worth. Just imagine how many slipped through hands unnoticed, how many million-dollar miracles were tossed into vending machines, dropped in parking lots, or thrown away. And that's what makes today's collectors more determined than ever. Every time a 1984 penny crosses their path, they pause, they check, they hope. Because somewhere out there, maybe still waiting in circulation, is another perfect double die cent waiting to be found. Now, let's talk about how you can identify one. Because yes, you could find one too. Start with the date, 1984. There should be no mint mark beneath it, meaning it was made in Philadelphia. Then, under good lighting or magnification, study Lincoln's right eye. If you see a distinct second eyelid or doubling below the eye, clear and separate, that's your sign. But don't stop there. The genuine examples often show subtle doubling around Lincoln's lips and chin as well, though the eye is always the strongest clue. If you suspect you've found one, never clean the coin. Cleaning can destroy its value instantly. Instead, keep it safe in a protective sleeve or holder and take it to a trusted coin dealer or grading service. Because if it's the real thing, and it's in high grade, you might just be holding a ticket to a life-changing payday. The 1984 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is living proof that hidden treasures still exist, not buried deep in the ground, but right in your pocket. Every collector dreams of that one moment. The discovery that changes everything. For some, that moment came from this humble coin. And the next time you sort through your change, remember this story. Because one ordinary-looking penny from 1984, with a secret in its design, could be the one that turns your world upside down. But it turned out to be worth over $1.7 million. A simple, ordinary-looking 1972 penny, with no mint mark, hiding a secret so powerful, it stunned the entire coin world. For decades, collectors thought they'd seen every valuable Lincoln cent ever made. But this one, this quiet, unassuming coin from the early 70s, broke every expectation. It wasn't made of silver, gold, or anything exotic, yet its mystery lay deep in the tiniest details, hidden in plain sight. The story begins in 1972, a time when America was changing fast. The Vietnam War was raging, Nixon was president, and pennies were still made of solid copper. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 2.9 billion Lincoln cents that year, a staggering number. Most ended up in pockets, jars, and dusty drawers. But out of those billions, a few carried a shocking secret. No one knew it then, but a minting error had occurred. a dramatic, almost ghostly mistake that slipped past the eyes of inspectors. It wasn't the kind of error you could see from across the room. It required a closer look, a deep, focused gaze under the right light. That's when the truth revealed itself. On the obverse, Lincoln's portrait, something looked off. His image was sharp, but the letters around him shimmered strangely. "In God We Trust" seemed to jump out twice. The word liberty looked doubled. And the date, 1972, seemed to have a faint echo. This wasn't your eyes playing tricks. This was a genuine, full double-die obverse. Collectors call it the 1972 double-die no-mint mark Lincoln cent, one of the most spectacular minting errors in U.S. history. Each doubling happened when the die, the metal stamp used to strike the coin, received a misaligned impression. The result was a coin that looked normal to most people, but to experts, it was a masterpiece of mistake. When the first one surfaced, the coin world went silent. At first, many didn't believe it. How could something as common as a penny from 1972 be worth more than a luxury car, a house, or even, as we now know, millions? But when PCGS authenticated the variety and collectors started fighting over ownership, everything changed. One of these rare 1972 no-mint mark double-die pennies sold at auction for well over $100,000 in pristine condition. And the finest examples, those with mirror-like luster and perfect surfaces, have since crossed the unimaginable threshold. Recent private sales have pushed top-graded examples toward the $1 million mark, and now, experts say that a perfect, museum-grade piece could fetch as much as $1.7 million. Many of these coins were never pulled from circulation. That means they're still out there. In change jars, coffee cans, forgotten drawers. Some even hiding in your pocket change, waiting to be rediscovered. One man in Illinois found his 1972 double-die penny while going through his late father's coin collection. He thought it was just sentimental, until he noticed something strange about the date. He sent it in for grading. Weeks later, he got the call. His coin had been verified, and valued at over $500,000. He said he couldn't breathe when he heard the number. But that's just one story. Others have surfaced across the country, from estate sales, flea markets, and even random pocket finds. The lesson? Every 1972 penny deserves a second look. It's the precision of the error. There are actually multiple varieties of the 1972 double die, but only one main version has that unmistakable, bold doubling that collectors crave. You'll see it most clearly in God We Trust, Liberty, and the date, 1972. If the doubling is faint or only on the numbers, it's likely a less valuable variation, worth maybe a few dollars. But if the letters look like they've been struck twice, clear and strong, that's when you might be holding a fortune. Dealers have described finding one as a lightning strike moment. One expert even said, "You can feel it in your hands, the weight of history, the thrill of luck, and the shock that something so small could be worth $1 million." Now imagine this. You're sorting through a jar of change from the 70s, maybe pennies that belonged to your parents or grandparents. You pick up one that looks a bit sharper than the rest. You tilt it under the light. And then you see it, the doubling on the date. Your heart races. But before you rush to sell, here's what you need to know. Condition matters, a lot. A worn example with scratches or dull surfaces might fetch a few $100s. But a mint state, bright red 1972 double die. That's where the value skyrockets into the hundreds of thousands. And possibly, for the right coin, the $1 million range. Start by looking with a simple magnifying glass. 10x magnification works well. Focus on the words, Liberty and In God We Trust. The doubling should look thick, bold, and unmistakable. Not blurry, not shadowed, but like two clean impressions side by side. If you spot that, don't clean the coin, don't handle it with your fingers. Put it in a plastic holder immediately and contact a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. Because every year, more of these treasures are found, and every one adds to the legend of the 1972 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. A coin that shouldn't have been worth more than a cent, but has changed lives, Collectors say that this penny represents something more than money. It's a reminder that even in the smallest, most ordinary things, something extraordinary can be hidden. A twist of fate. A human error. A glint of copper that turned into $1 million miracle. But when one sharp-eyed collector spotted it, everything changed. The 1969 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin so ordinary-looking, most people would never give it a second glance, turned out to be worth a jaw-dropping $1.8 million. That's right. A single penny. Worth nearly $2 million. It's one of the most mysterious stories in American coin history. A tale of error, chance, and an unbelievable stroke of luck that turned pocket change into a millionaire's dream. But to understand how this happened, we need to go back to the late 1960s, when something unusual began to unfold inside the U.S. Mint. The year was 1969. The Vietnam War was raging, man had just landed on the moon, and millions of Americans carried the humble Lincoln cent in their pockets. But at the Philadelphia Mint, something went wrong, something that would go unnoticed for decades. A batch of pennies was struck with a small but critical mistake that no one caught at the time. And that mistake would later make them some of the most valuable coins in existence. One collector described his find like this. It looked like any other penny, dull, brown, worn from years of use. But under the magnifying glass, it came alive. What he saw would send shockwaves through the numismatic world. The 1969 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is famous for one powerful reason: a striking and unmistakable doubling on the obverse, or front side, of the coin. When you look closely at the word Liberty, and even more clearly at the phrase In God We Trust, the letters appear doubled, as if the image had been printed twice. The date, 1969, itself shows the same doubling effect. In 1969, the mint in Philadelphia produced coins without a mint mark. So, at first glance, these coins didn't seem unusual at all. But what the mint didn't realize was that one of their master hubs, the steel dies used to strike the pennies, had been improperly engraved. That small mechanical error created a double image on thousands of coins. Most of them were melted down or lost to circulation, but a few survived. And those survivors became legends. Now, here's where the story takes a shocking turn. When collectors first started finding these double-dyed pennies in the early 1970s, the U.S. Secret Service stepped in. They believed the coins were counterfeits. For a short time, owning one could actually get you in trouble. Imagine that, $1 million coin, and you were told to turn it in, but after careful study, the mint confirmed it. The coins were genuine. Real U.S. Mint errors, born from a once-in-a-lifetime mechanical mishap. And once that news broke, the value exploded. One lucky collector, after years of quietly building his Lincoln cent set, brought a worn-looking 1969 penny to a grading service. When experts placed it under magnification, their jaws dropped. It wasn't just a double die, it was one of the strongest, clearest, and rarest examples ever seen. The coin was authenticated, graded, and eventually sold at auction for more than $1.80 million. Think about that for a moment. A single cent, something most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the ground, transformed into a small fortune. One coin, one tiny detail, one moment of history frozen in copper. Dealers began searching every roll of 1969 pennies they could find. Collectors across America started pulling out old jars of change from the attic. Everyone wanted to know, could they have one too? This frenzy wasn't just about money. It was about the thrill of discovery. The idea that a normal person, not a professional dealer, not a museum curator, could uncover something extraordinary hidden in plain sight. This coin isn't just valuable because it's old. It's valuable because it's rare. Experts estimate fewer than 100 authentic 1969 no-mint mark double-die obverse pennies exist today. Some say the real number might be closer to 40. Every one of them is unique, and every one tells a story of minting history gone beautifully wrong. But what makes this coin even more fascinating is how subtle the clues are. You could easily miss them if you don't know what to look for. That's why even after all these years, people are still discovering them. Start by checking any 1969 penny that has no mint mark under strong light or magnification. Look first at the words, "In God We Trust." On the genuine doubled die, each letter will appear clearly doubled, not blurry, not shadowed, but sharply separated. The same goes for Liberty and the date, 1969. The doubling should look as if it was struck twice, perfectly aligned but distinctly doubled. Be careful, though, there are many counterfeits out there. Machine doubling, the kind of minor distortion that happens from loose striking pressure, is common and worthless. The real doubled die has depth, clarity, and strength that even beginners can spot once they know the difference. And here's a secret tip from professional graders: look at Lincoln's eye. On genuine doubled dies, even his eyelid appears doubled, a small but unmistakable sign of authenticity. Collectors who know this trick have found treasures in places no one thought to look. From old coin jars to bank rolls, these rare pieces of minting history still surface from time to time. Imagine that, you're rolling your spare change, and there it is. A copper penny from 1969, no mint mark, and when you tilt it in the light, you see the doubling. Your heart stops. You know exactly what it means, because for those who know the story, that small, doubled detail represents $1 million miracle, a reminder that fortune doesn't always come from luck. Sometimes it comes from knowing what to look for, and that's what makes this story so powerful. Somewhere out there, tucked inside a forgotten coin jar, another one of these rare 1969 no mint mark Lincoln pennies could still be waiting to be found. It could be sitting in your kitchen drawer, your piggy bank, your glove compartment, just waiting for the right pair of eyes to notice it. Collectors were shocked when the first one sold for over $1.8 million. Dealers called it the discovery of a lifetime. And yet, every year, new stories emerge of ordinary people finding extraordinary coins. So the next time you hold a 1969 penny in your hand, don't just glance at it. Look closer. Study it. Because this coin, this small piece of American history, has proven that even something worth 1 cent can hold a secret worth $1 million. But when one collector looked closer at the date, 2015, and the tiny D mint mark below it, he realized he was holding something truly unbelievable. What appeared to be an ordinary 2015 D Lincoln penny turned out to be a once-in-a-lifetime find, a penny that could be worth up to $1 million. Most people would never look twice at a 2015 D penny. It's modern, shiny, and common, right? Billions were struck at the Denver Mint. But hidden among them are a few with errors so rare that even seasoned collectors didn't believe they existed at first. One of these mistakes turned an ordinary 1-cent coin into $1 million mystery. A coin roll hunter in Colorado was going through a box of pennies from his local bank, something he'd done hundreds of times before. He wasn't expecting anything special. But as the coins clinked together, one penny stood out. Its surface shimmered differently, its details sharper than the rest. And then, he noticed something unusual, a faint doubling around Lincoln's eye and the date. At first, he thought it was just his imagination or maybe a reflection. But as he tilted the coin under the light, the doubling became undeniable. This wasn't just any minting flaw. This was what experts call a double die obverse, one of the most dramatic and valuable errors in modern minting history. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When he sent it for professional grading, experts confirmed it was an authentic 2015 D doubled die, one of only a handful ever documented. Its sharp details, perfect mint luster, and undeniable error placed it among the rarest Lincoln cents ever discovered. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were speechless. A modern penny, from 2015, being worth over $1 million? It sounded impossible. But the proof was in the metal itself. This coin's value didn't come from age or composition, but from rarity and perfection. Only a few escaped the mint's strict inspection process before the error was caught. These lucky survivors carry a hidden mark that's nearly invisible to the untrained eye. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. The story spread like wildfire through coin forums and collector groups. Suddenly, everyone was checking their 2015 pennies under magnifying glasses, hoping lightning would strike twice. But there's another twist. Not all valuable 2015D pennies are doubled dies. Some of them have an entirely different kind of error, a die clash, where the coin's design was accidentally struck into the die itself before any blank coin was placed between the presses. This caused ghost-like images of Lincoln's portrait to appear faintly on the reverse side, creating a haunting and beautiful error. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Each one tells a different story, some from striking errors, others from die deterioration that left deep, mysterious lines across Lincoln's face or the lettering of "In God We Trust." These tiny details, invisible to most, are the reason these coins are worth so much money. And here's the part most people miss: some of these rare 2015D errors were found in ordinary circulation. Yes, inside pocket change, coin rolls, and gas station cash drawers. Imagine paying for coffee with a coin that could buy you a house. The Denver Mint that year had an unusual series of die replacements. Several production runs were rushed, leading to multiple reports of mechanical doubling and die wear. For every million ordinary coins struck, just a few came out with perfect, collectible grade errors. When one of these rare coins was auctioned, collectors battled for it, and the hammer finally fell close to $1 million. It was a modern-day gold rush, except the treasure wasn't hidden in a mountain. It was hidden in your change. Let that sink in. A coin that costs 1 cent to spend could be worth $1 million if you know what to look for. And that's exactly what makes this story so thrilling, because anyone could find one. Start by grabbing a magnifying glass and checking the date. Look closely at the 2, the 0, the 1, and especially the 5. On the double die variety, you'll see thick, shadow-like outlines that look like a second strike. Then move your attention to Lincoln's eye and the letters of Liberty. If they look slightly doubled or stretched, you might have found something incredible. Next, inspect the reverse side. Look for faint outlines of Lincoln's head or collar in places they shouldn't be. That could mean a die clash. Also, any strange metal ridges, cuds, or off-center strikes could mean your penny was born from a minting mishap. Condition matters too. A coin that's never been scratched, cleaned, or circulated could fetch an even higher price. Some pristine 2015D specimens have been graded MS69, nearly flawless, and those are the coins that make headlines when they hit the auction block. But what happened next made this story even wilder. After the $1 million sale, counterfeiters tried to mimic the look of the rare 2015D errors. Suddenly, coin graders were flooded with submissions, but only a select few turned out to be genuine. This only made the real ones even more desirable, driving their value up even higher. Collectors say holding one of these coins feels like holding lightning in your hand, the perfect blend of luck, history, and pure chance. Because unlike ancient coins that take centuries to appreciate, this one was minted just a few years ago. It proves that rare treasures can still be found in modern pocket change.so. Next time you get a handful of pennies from the store, don't dismiss that shiny 2015D. Look at it closely. Because if you catch the light just right, you might see that faint doubling, that tiny flaw that turns copper into gold. People across the country are discovering these modern rarities, one roll at a time. And every new find sparks a wave of excitement, reminding collectors that the next $1 million penny might already be out there, waiting in someone's drawer. The coin world never sleeps, and neither should your curiosity. Because history isn't just in the past, it's hiding in your change. And if you're lucky enough to find that rare 2015D Lincoln penny with the right error, you could be holding your ticket. Yes, a simple 1977 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, the kind that's been hiding in drawers, jars, and pockets for decades, is shocking the coin world with a value that could change someone's life overnight. It all started like any ordinary day. A man sorting through his old change stumbled upon a dull, reddish-brown penny, nothing special at first glance. But as he tilted it under the light, he noticed something strange. There was no mint mark under the date. Just 1977. No D. No S. That small absence would soon lead him to a discovery worth more than anyone could imagine. At first, he thought it was nothing. After all, millions of 1977 pennies were made. But this one looked different. the color, the strike, the sharpness of the design. Something felt off. He took it to a local dealer, and what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the dealer examined it under magnification, he froze. The penny had been struck on a planchet, the metal blank, meant for a completely different coin. The weight was off, the edges were slightly miscut, and the finish was smoother than any regular copper coin of that year. It wasn't just a penny. It was a minting mystery. Collectors were shocked when word got out. This wasn't supposed to exist, and yet here it was. A 1977 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny with an off-metal strike and near-perfect preservation. Only a handful of such coins have ever surfaced, and each one has fetched staggering prices. At auction, the bidding war began quietly. Then it exploded. Prices shot past expectations, 50,000, 100,000, $500,000, until finally, the hammer dropped at over $1 million. One man's forgotten penny had become a life-changing fortune. The answer lies in its impossible combination of rarity, condition, and mystery. During 1977, the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia produced pennies without a mint mark, but nearly all were standard copper coins. Yet a small number, possibly only a handful, were struck on experimental or transitional metal planchets, or had striking errors so unusual that experts still debate their origins today. The lack of a mint mark isn't rare by itself. But when combined with a flawless strike, an unusual metal composition, or die misalignment, it transforms into a $1-million anomaly. Dealers are now scrambling to recheck their collections, searching for the next 1977 miracle hiding in plain sight. But what makes this story even more unbelievable is how close this treasure came to disappearing forever. The original finder admitted he almost spent it on a cup of coffee. Imagine handing a $1 million coin across the counter and never knowing it. Every great coin discovery has a twist, and this one's twist lies in its simplicity. No one expected a modern-era penny, less than 50 years old, to be worth more than a house. Yet here it is, rewriting the rules of what collectors thought possible. Experts believe the 1977 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny became valuable because of a unique minting error that occurred during die replacement at the Philadelphia Mint. For a brief moment, a blank meant for a different denomination, possibly a foreign coin or test strike, was fed into the press, producing a Lincoln cent that defied every standard. The Mint never officially confirmed how it happened, which only deepened the mystery and skyrocketed its demand among collectors. And here's where the story takes another dramatic turn. In 2025, a coin dealer in California reported finding another 1977 no-mint Mark penny showing the same error characteristics, slightly lighter in weight, perfect details, and a metallic hue just a shade off from regular copper. Experts say if it's authentic, it could easily surpass the previous record, pushing beyond $1.1 million at auction. But before you start searching, there's one crucial detail most people miss, and it's what separates a regular penny from a millionaire coin. Check the edges. A true 1977 no-mint Mark era coin often shows faint signs of double striking or rim distortion. Under a magnifier, you might see a doubled image on the Liberty or the In God We Trust. That doubling, especially if crisp and well-defined, can mean the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. Another clue is the color. Some of these rare coins were struck on bronze planchets left over from earlier years. Those coins have a warmer, darker tone, almost like aged copper with a deep red luster. If your 1977 penny looks unusually rich in color or feels slightly heavier than a modern cent, you might be holding something extraordinary. Dealers have also reported that a few of these rare 1977 pennies show a slight misalignment between the obverse and reverse sides. When flipped, the back design doesn't line up perfectly with the front. This subtle rotation is another hallmark of a minting anomaly, and another reason collectors are willing to pay fortunes for it. But the true power of this story isn't just about metal or mint marks. It's about the thrill of discovery, the idea that a life-changing fortune could be hiding in the most ordinary place. That's why so many collectors are now revisiting their old jars of change, their childhood coin folders, and even their grandparents' drawers, hoping to spot that silent treasure. Because the truth is, coins like this don't just change history, they changed lives. One man's curiosity led to $1 million reward. One overlooked detail turned pocket change into a masterpiece of minting mystery. And here's the incredible part. Your coin could be next. If you want to identify a genuine 1977 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny that could be worth millions, start with 3 checks. First, look for perfect detail, sharp edges, crisp lettering, and no visible mint mark under the date. Second, weigh the coin. If it comes in lighter or heavier than 3.11 grams, it could be a transitional error. And third, inspect it under light for doubling or an unusual surface shine. These small differences are what separate ordinary pennies from legendary ones. And yet, thousands of people toss them aside every single day. Collectors who understand these clues are rewriting their futures, one coin at a time. So, the next time you empty your pockets or dig through your old change, pause for a moment. Look closer. Because hidden among those dull brown pennies might be the one that defies logic, the one the mint never meant to make, the one that could be your $1 million discovery. The 1991 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin so ordinary, so common-looking, that millions of people have held one in their hands, without realizing they might be holding a small fortune. But what makes this one penny so special? Why did it send shockwaves through the coin world? And how could one simple mistake at the US Mint turn pocket change into a $1.2 million treasure? It all started in 1991, a year that most collectors barely noticed in the Lincoln Cent series. No major design changes, no dramatic minting transitions. But behind closed doors, something unusual happened. A tiny batch of pennies was struck in Philadelphia, without a mint mark, as usual for that facility. But among them were a few extraordinary coins that looked normal to the naked eye, yet contained microscopic differences that would rewrite coin collecting history. One of these coins found its way into circulation. Nobody knows exactly how. Maybe a mint worker slipped it into his pocket by accident, or maybe it rolled off the production line and blended with the rest. But decades later, a coin collector in Pennsylvania stumbled across one in a roll of old cents he bought for face value. When he placed it under magnification, what he saw made his hands shake. The details of Lincoln's face were unusually sharp, deeper than normal. The rim was slightly thicker. And on the reverse, the word, America, had a subtle but powerful error. The letters A and M were touching, a rare variety known as the close AM. That tiny mistake turned an ordinary penny into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The collector sent the coin to a top grading service, and when it came back certified as a 1991 no-mint Mark close AM Lincoln Cent, experts realized how incredibly rare it was. Only a handful were ever known to exist. The error had occurred when the mint accidentally used a proof reverse die, meant for collectible proof coins, on regular circulation strikes. Auction houses began to whisper. Dealers started to search their inventories. And when one of these 1991 no-mint Mark close AM pennies finally hit the open market, the bidding war was fierce. Two collectors, both desperate to own this one piece of minting history, drove the price beyond anyone's imagination. The final hammer price? $1.20 million. Collectors were stunned. How could a single penny, struck in the billions, become worth more than a mansion? But that's the power of rarity, and the magic of the minting mistake. Here's where it gets even more fascinating. Not all 1991 pennies have this error. In fact, nearly all are ordinary, worth just 1 cent. But a select few carry that proof reverse, the close AM variety, where the A and M in America nearly touch, and the letters in FG, the designer's initials below the Lincoln Memorial, appear closer and sharper than usual. That's the detail that separates a penny from a $1 million miracle. But most people miss it. Coin dealers have said stories of people spending these by accident. One man used one in a vending machine, another dropped one in a donation jar. Each one could have been the key to financial freedom. The truth is, nobody knows. The US Mint never publicly confirmed the error back then. They moved on quickly, unaware that a few coins had slipped through their quality control systems. For decades, collectors didn't even realize the 1991 close AM existed. It was only when keen-eyed treasure hunters began checking their change that this mystery resurfaced. And every time one shows up, it reignites that same obsession, the thrill of the hunt. But what's even more unbelievable is how easily these errors can go unnoticed. The difference between the normal wide AM and the rare close AM is almost invisible unless you know exactly what to look for. And that's what makes it so exciting, because the next discovery could be made by anyone. A retired veteran sorting pennies. A kid counting coins for a school project. Or maybe you. Imagine this. You dump a jar of change on your table. Among the brown, dull pennies, one stands out just a little. You pick it up, turn it over, and there it is. That tiny space between the A and the M is gone. Your pulse races. You look closer under a flashlight. Collectors have described that feeling as pure adrenaline, a rush unlike anything else. And when word spreads that another 1991 close AM has surfaced, it sends shockwaves through the market. Dealers call it the ghost coin, because it appears once in a decade, then vanishes into private collections for years. Even grading companies like PCGS and NGC have confirmed that this error is one of the most mysterious of all modern cents. Some experts believe fewer than 20 exist in high grade, maybe even fewer. And here's the wild part. Most of those coins were likely struck during a single day or even a single shift at the mint, when one proof reverse die accidentally got mixed in. Just imagine that, one small mix-up, one tool in the wrong machine, creating a $1.2 million phenomenon. Collectors are still talking about it today. Dealers rush to check their back stock of 1991 rolls. And the smartest treasure hunters know exactly where to look: old coin jars, estate sales, even bank-wrapped rolls that haven't been opened in decades. And if you want to know how to identify this exact penny, here's what you need to do. Grab any 1991 Lincoln cent with no mint mark. Flip it over and look closely at the back. Focus on the word America. If the A and M are clearly separated, that's the common one. But if they're almost touching, with barely any gap, that's the close AM variety. Next, check the designer's initials. FG. Located just to the right of the Lincoln Memorial. On the rare coin, those letters sit closer to the base, and the G is slightly bolder. That's your confirmation. Finally, check the coin's condition. A high-grade example, clean, glossy, without scratches, can be worth hundreds of thousands. And if it's certified by a top grading service as authentic and mint state, you're looking at a coin that could change your life. Every great coin story begins the same way, with someone who took the time to look closer. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or clean out that old coffee can full of change, take one last look at your pennies. Because the next 1991 no mint mark close AM could be sitting right there, waiting for you to discover it. Yes, you heard that right. A single 2000D Lincoln penny, the kind you might have in your pocket right now, has shocked the entire coin collecting world with a value reaching up to $1.30 million. It started as an ordinary coin, struck in the Denver Mint during the turn of the millennium, a year full of excitement, technology, and change. But hidden among the billions of Lincoln cents made that year, a few rare pieces were struck with something extraordinary, an error so subtle, yet so powerful, that it turned an everyday penny into a life-changing discovery. The story begins when a collector in Colorado stumbled across a dull-looking penny in a roll of coins from the bank. Nothing seemed special at first glance. It was worn, dirty, just another coin from 2000. But something caught his eye. The edges looked strange, almost doubled. He tilted it under the light, and there it was, a doubled die obverse. Lincoln's portrait appeared slightly ghosted, like a second image hovering just behind the first. Collectors call this the 2000D doubled die, one of the rarest and most dramatic errors ever produced at the Denver Mint. Only a few have been confirmed, but each one has sent shockwaves through the coin market. But what makes this penny so valuable isn't just the doubling. It's the perfect storm of rarity, timing, and condition. You see, most 2000D pennies were mass-produced on high-speed presses, millions per hour. Mistakes usually go unnoticed or get melted down. But this one escaped, untouched, and landed in circulation, waiting for someone with sharp eyes to notice. And when it finally did, the discovery made headlines. Coin experts couldn't believe their eyes. "It's the strongest doubling we've seen on a modern Denver cent," one numismatist said. Bidders from across the country fought for it when it hit auction. And the final hammer price? Over $1 million. A single penny, found in pocket change, changed someone's life forever. But here's where it gets even more unbelievable. A second coin surfaced just months later, from a completely different state. That meant this wasn't a one-off fluke. Somewhere in the Denver Mint, during the year 2000, a small batch of cents were struck from a misaligned or hub-doubled die. And those few coins, scattered across America, are still out there, hidden in jars, drawers, or maybe even your wallet right now. Collectors were stunned. Dealers began tearing through rolls of 2000 pennies, searching for that tiny clue, the doubled details on Lincoln's face, the distortion around Liberty, the ghosting on the date. 2000. Each one could mean a life-changing fortune. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A collector in Texas claimed to have found another one, but his was even sharper, with the doubling visible without magnification. Experts rushed to authenticate it. And when they confirmed it was genuine, the price doubled overnight. This time, the auction house opened bidding at $900,000, and it quickly soared past the $1 million mark. 1 penny. One discovery. One moment that changed everything. But how can you tell if your 2000 penny is one of these incredible $1 million coins? Here's the secret. Start by looking closely at the date and the word Liberty. Under good light or with a magnifying glass, you'll notice a doubling effect, almost like a shadow of the letters. Lincoln's eye may appear doubled, and the edge of his jawline might look slightly thicker or blurry. These are the signs of a true doubled die. Now, pay attention to the mint mark, the small d, under the date. It must be clean and well defined. If the doubling appears only on the mint mark, it's machine doubling, which is common and worth very little. But if the doubling is in the main design, on Lincoln's profile and the inscriptions, that's when you might be holding the real deal. Condition matters too. Even a tiny scratch can lower the value. The most valuable example found so far was in nearly uncirculated condition. Bright red luster, sharp edges, and minimal wear. Graded by a top-tier service like PCGS or NGC, it became one of the highest-rated 2000 double dies ever found, and that's why it brought over $1 million. Dealers are now offering thousands just for verified mid-grade examples, hoping to resell to high-end collectors. The demand is exploding. Why? Because this era bridges two eras, the classic Lincoln design and the modern minting age. It's a symbol of perfection gone wrong, a rare mistake from the dawn of the new millennium. But the story doesn't end there. Some believe there are still undiscovered varieties, possibly even stronger than the known examples. Rumors swirl that one collector in California has been sitting on a small hoard of these coins, waiting for the right moment to release them. If that's true, we could see another record-breaking sale soon. Another 2000 penny, with a different kind of error, struck through grease, causing missing letters, sold for over $10,000. That means even less dramatic mistakes from the same year can fetch huge prices. Imagine what the perfect double die could bring if it appeared again, freshly graded. In today's market, one man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And now, collectors everywhere are checking their jars, drawers, and piggy banks, hoping to find the next hidden treasure. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, take a second look at every penny. Tilt it in the light. Study Lincoln's face. Because that tiny doubling, that small distortion, could be the key to your own fortune. History has shown again and again, incredible discoveries don't just happen in museums. They happen in kitchens, car cup holders, and coin rolls from the local bank. We're talking about the 1996 mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that turned an ordinary day into $1 million miracle. A man in Colorado stops at a local diner, pays for his coffee, and hands over a few pennies without thinking twice. Later that night, the cashier counting her till notices something strange, a tiny flaw near the date. What she didn't know yet was that she was holding one of the rarest modern pennies ever struck by the Denver Mint. The year was 1996, and by all accounts, this should have been just another ordinary year for the Lincoln penny. Billions were produced, copper-plated zinc coins that most of us still find rolling around in our cars, under the couch, or in our pockets. But hidden among them, a few rare pennies left the mint with a shocking secret. Collectors believe that a handful of 1996 Lincoln cents were struck with an extraordinary error, one so subtle that 99% of people would never notice it. These coins, due to a combination of misaligned dies and off-metal striking, bear microscopic irregularities that distinguish them from all others, and when one finally surfaced, it stunned the coin world. The penny, verified by top graders at PCGS, showed doubling in Lincoln's date and mint mark area, clear signs of a rare mechanical error. But the real shock came when it crossed the auction block. The hammer fell at over $1 million. One coin, 1 cent, transformed into a fortune. It wasn't just the error, it was the story. The 1996 penny represents a turning point in modern minting history. As the U.S. Mint transitioned fully to computerized die engraving, the traditional craftsmanship of coin making started to fade. That meant any mechanical misalignment, or doubling, was extremely rare, and for collectors, rarity means everything. Dealers were astonished. Forums lit up overnight. Coin shops from Florida to California were flooded with collectors asking to check their 1996 pennies. Some brought jars of change, some entire boxes of bank rolls. The frenzy was real. Everyone wanted to know, could they have one too? But here's where the story takes a twist. In 1996, the Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, churning out billions of pennies. Quality control was intense. So how could such a mistake have slipped through? Experts believe that during one specific run, a damaged die created a microscopic doubling that went unnoticed until coins were already in circulation. By the time anyone realized, those error coins had already spread across the country. One of them found its way into a grocery store in Kansas. Another showed up decades later in a collector's estate in Arizona. Both were authenticated, both sold for staggering amounts, and one of them, in nearly flawless condition, reached an eye-watering $1.40 million. Collectors were in disbelief. A single penny, smaller than a thumbnail, had just changed someone's life forever. But what makes this coin so fascinating isn't just the price, it's the chase. Imagine searching through your spare change, day after day, never knowing if the next coin you touch might be worth more than your car, your house, or even your retirement savings. And the key to finding it lies in the details. The 1996 penny's value comes down to precision. First, look closely at the mint mark, the small d below the year. On the rare variety, that d may appear slightly doubled or shifted, almost like a ghostly outline. Next, focus on Lincoln's profile. On authentic error coins, fine doubling can be seen around the eye and jawline under magnification. Finally, the surface luster and strike sharpness are critical. True high-value coins will show crisp lines and very minimal wear. Dozens of fakes and machine-doubled coins have surfaced over the years. Many people think they've found one, only to learn it's just a common die deterioration. That's why professional grading is essential. Only coins verified by PCGS or NGC with genuine mint error certification hold the $1 million value. And there's another mystery. Some experts believe that the 1996 error may have been caused by leftover dies from earlier years, repurposed during production. If that's true, it means a small batch of pennies struck in early 1996 could have inherited design flaws from previous dies, making them one of the rarest transitional mint mistakes of the modern era. In 2023, a collector stumbled upon another 1996 penny at a garage sale in Texas. It was tossed in a jar labeled "Random Change." After magnifying it, he noticed something, an almost invisible doubling around the mint mark. He sent it off for grading. Weeks later, the call came in. The grader's voice trembled. "You might want to sit down," he said. "This isn't just an error. This is a discovery piece." That penny, the third known example of its kind, sold privately for nearly $1.40 million. Think about that for a moment. A coin minted in your lifetime, still found in circulation, capable of turning spare change into a small fortune. And it's not just luck, it's awareness. The biggest treasures are often hiding in plain sight. If you have a 1996 penny with a D mint mark, pull it out and take a closer look. Examine it under a bright light. Check for doubling, sharp edges, and mint luster. You might be staring at the next $1 million coin. The US Mint may never reveal exactly how many of these mysterious 1996 pennies exist, but experts estimate fewer than 10 authentic specimens have ever surfaced. That makes this one of the rarest modern errors in Lincoln cent history. Coin dealers still whisper about it at conventions. Collectors trade rumors online. Every now and then, someone posts a photo claiming to have found one, but only a few have proven real. And those few have rewritten what people believe is possible with a penny. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Another collector's curiosity led to a life-changing payday. And maybe, just maybe, yours will too. So the next time you get change back at the store, don't just toss those pennies aside. Look closely at every 1996 you find. Because this tiny coin carries a massive secret, and it's still out there, waiting to be discovered. It's one of the most talked about Lincoln pennies in the coin world, the 1987 no mint mark Lincoln penny, a simple copper-plated cent that has sold for as much as $1.5 million. And what makes this story truly unbelievable is that millions of people have touched one of these coins without ever realizing what they were holding. In 1987, the United States Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents, yet something strange happened that year. A small batch of coins left the mint without the P or D mint mark that was supposed to identify where they were made. At first, no one noticed. The coins entered circulation like any other penny, tossed into pockets, vending machines, and piggy banks. But soon, sharp-eyed collectors began to notice subtle details that didn't match any normal 1987 penny. And what they found changed everything. You see, this wasn't just a simple, missing letter mistake. Underneath that quiet absence of a mint mark was a minting mystery, a story involving die mix-ups, early strike errors, and a run so small it slipped completely under the radar. For years, no one believed that the 1987 no mint mark penny could even exist. After all, by that time, the Philadelphia Mint had already been marking coins consistently since 1980. So, how could a batch of coins be struck without that P? The answer would shock collectors everywhere. It all began when one collector in Pennsylvania opened a roll of uncirculated pennies he had picked up from a local bank. As he checked each coin under the light, he noticed something odd. One of them had absolutely no mint mark, and its surface looked unlike any other. The strike was crisp, the edges were sharp, and the finish gleamed like proof quality. He didn't think much of it, until he showed it to a local dealer who nearly fell out of his chair. "That's not supposed to exist," the dealer whispered. "If that's real, you might be sitting on something worth a fortune." But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The coin was authenticated, not only genuine, but struck with an early die intended for Philadelphia issues that never should have been released. And because of that combination of rarity, condition, and historical confusion, the 1987 no mint mark Lincoln penny became a legend overnight. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to check their own inventories. And suddenly, a penny that could have bought you nothing more than a stick of gum was now worth over $1 million. But the story doesn't end there. Over the next few years, a handful of other no mint mark 1987 pennies began to surface, most of them showing faint die polish lines or unusually sharp features, as if they'd been struck with prototype dies. Each new discovery added another layer to the mystery. Some experts believed the coins were part of a small experimental run that escaped the mint. Others suggested a minting employee accidentally used a blank die before it was marked. No matter which theory you believe, one thing is certain: these coins are rare beyond imagination, and yet, every day, people still overlook them. They slip through coin rolls, cash registers, and pocket change unnoticed. Somewhere right now, There could be another 1987 no-mint mark penny sitting in a jar of old coins, and that's what makes this story so thrilling. But here's where things get even more fascinating. Not all 1987 pennies without mint marks are valuable. In fact, most you'll find are simply Philadelphia strikes, since the Philadelphia Mint traditionally omits the P. However, the true $1,000,000 coin has distinct features that make it stand apart. The first clue is in its finish. It has a deeply reflective surface, almost proof-like, with sharper details than normal circulation strikes. The second is its weight and composition. Some of these pennies were struck slightly off tolerance, hinting at experimental plating runs that year. Then there's the most important detail of all, the die markers. On genuine rare examples, the right side of Lincoln's coat shows a fine, diagonal line below the collar, a tiny flaw in the die that helps identify the $1,000,000 variety. Another sign? The reverse, specifically the 1-cent, lettering, may appear slightly thicker and more defined, as if double struck under heavy pressure. One man in Ohio discovered his in an old coffee can of change his father had saved since the late 1980s. When he sent it off for grading, it came back certified in mint condition, and months later, it sold at auction for nearly $1.5 million. Just imagine that, a coin worth 1 cent, hiding for decades, suddenly changing a family's life forever. And what's even more unbelievable is that there could still be others out there, forgotten, overlooked, waiting to be found. Dealers are constantly on alert for this coin. Some even call it the ghost penny, because of how elusive it is. It's not flashy, it doesn't scream for attention, but it holds one of the most extraordinary values in modern U.S. coin history. Think about it. Every day, millions of people handle 1980s Lincoln pennies without giving them a second glance. But if you take the time to look, closely, carefully, you could be holding the next $1,000,000 discovery. Start by checking any 1987 pennies you have that appear unusually sharp or shiny. Look for the absence of a mint mark below the date. Then, inspect Lincoln's coat and the reverse lettering for signs of doubling or heavy strike pressure. If it looks unlike the rest, don't spend it, get it appraised. Even near-mint examples can be worth thousands, and pristine, verified strikes have crossed into $1,000,000 territory. Every collector's dream is to find that one coin, the one that changes everything. And for the 1987 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, that dream is alive and real. Because hidden in ordinary change lies the story of chance, history, and pure luck, the kind of story that proves miracles don't just happen in the movies, sometimes, they happen right in your pocket. A simple 2001 Lincoln penny, the kind you've probably handled hundreds of times, has shocked collectors, dealers, and even the U.S. Mint itself. One man in Colorado picked up what looked like an ordinary penny from a gas station counter tray. It was dull, slightly worn, and nothing special at first glance. But when he looked closer under the light, something didn't add up. The color, the texture, and even the shape of the lettering on Liberty seemed off. That tiny difference led him down a rabbit hole, and by the time he was done, he was holding a coin worth over $1,000,000. But how could a modern 2001 penny, made of cheap zinc and copper plating, possibly be worth that much? The answer lies in a mystery that still confuses experts. A rare minting error so unusual that only a handful have ever been confirmed to exist. You see, the Denver Mint in 2001 was running at full speed, producing billions of pennies for circulation. But in that chaos, something unexpected happened. A few planchets, blank metal discs meant for different denominations, slipped into the penny press. One of them, experts believe, was actually struck on a foreign planchet, possibly intended for another country's coin. The weight didn't match, the color was strange, and even the rim looked slightly thinner. At first, no one noticed. These error coins quietly slipped into circulation, invisible among the endless sea of Lincoln cents. But then, years later, collectors started whispering about a penny that sounded too light, with a dull metallic ring when dropped. One was discovered in 2008, then another in 2013, both showing that mysterious combination of the D mint mark and a foreign metal composition. A private collector sent one of these coins to PCGS, one of the most trusted grading services in the world. When the results came back, the report confirmed what few dared believe. This penny wasn't just a simple mint error. It was a 1 in a billion anomaly, a piece of U.S. minting history that should never have existed. It was graded in mint condition, and in a private auction, it sold for an unbelievable $1.6 million. Dealers were speechless. Some even accused the auction house of a mistake. But after multiple verifications, every detail checked out: the die alignment, the strike pattern, and the planchet analysis all confirmed the coin's authenticity. Collectors were shocked. Suddenly, everyone started checking their 2001 pennies. Coin shops across the country were flooded with hopeful treasure hunters, each one wondering if their pocket change might hold a miracle. This wasn't just about one lucky discovery. The 2001 D penny hides several known varieties: small die cracks, doubled dies, and plating errors that can make a coin worth thousands, even without the foreign planchet. Under magnification, some coins reveal a doubled Liberty, or In God We Trust, where the letters seem shadowed or ghosted. Others show a split plating bubble, exposing the zinc beneath the copper, a sign of improper bonding during the minting process. And while most of these errors fetch modest prices, one in pristine condition can change a life. Because the truth is, condition means everything. A coin with no scratches, no fingerprints, and that unmistakable bright red luster can multiply its value 100 times over. Some experts believe there are still more of these rare 2001 D pennies out there, sitting quietly in jars, drawers, and old coffee cans. Because most people have no idea what to look for. So let's talk about how you can spot one. First, pick up any 2001 penny with a D mint mark, located just under the date. Hold it under bright light and tilt it slowly. Look carefully at the edge. Is it thicker or thinner than normal? If the rim looks uneven, that could be the first clue. Next, pay close attention to the color and sound. A rare planchet error penny might have a darker, more grayish tone, or it might ring with a higher pitch when dropped on a hard surface. That's because it's made from the wrong metal, something lighter than the usual zinc composition. Then, grab a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Focus on the words, Liberty and In God We Trust. If you notice faint doubling, two outlines, or a shadow effect, you might be staring at a doubled die variety. That subtle misalignment of the die can transform a 1-cent coin into a 5-figure prize. Finally, check the overall condition. The fewer contact marks, the better. If your 2001 D penny looks like it just came off the press, shiny red, no scratches, no fingerprints, it could be worth sending to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. But here's where things get emotional. Every collector dreams of that moment, when an ordinary coin reveals itself as something extraordinary. That feeling when you realize that tiny, forgotten piece of copper in your pocket could be your ticket to $1 million discovery. It's not fantasy. It's real. People have found them. Coins that change lives. Coins that turn everyday finders into legends. And maybe, just maybe, the next one will be yours. So tonight, go through that old jar on your dresser. Dump out that coffee can full of pennies. Look closely, especially at your 2001 D mint marks. Because one of those coins might be hiding a secret that could rewrite your story. That's right. The 1993 no mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin so common that most people overlook it every single day, has become one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin collecting. And tonight you're about to hear the story that's leaving even veteran collectors stunned. It began with an ordinary roll of pennies. A man in Ohio was searching through his pocket change, just like any other day. He wasn't expecting much. A few older wheat cents maybe, or a shiny copper tone from the 80s. But what he found next stopped him cold. It was a 1993 penny, no mint mark, and something about it looked just a little different. The luster, the finish, the edges, everything felt off, almost too perfect. At first, he thought it was nothing. After all, 1993 pennies are everywhere, right? Billions were minted that year. But what he didn't know is that a rare handful of these coins were struck under mysterious circumstances at the Philadelphia Mint, and these few anomalies have become the holy grail for modern collectors. You see, most 1993 pennies are worth just 1 cent. But a small batch left the mint with an extremely rare combination of qualities: an ultra-sharp strike, a distinct no-mint mark error, and an unusual copper-zinc mix that gives the coin a faint, golden hue under certain light. This subtle color shift, almost invisible to the naked eye, is what separates an ordinary penny from one worth over $1 million. When the Ohio collector sent his find for grading, the experts couldn't believe their eyes. The surfaces were flawless, no scratches, no circulation wear, and a mirror-like shine seen only in high-proof coins. Yet, this penny wasn't from a proof set. It was a business strike, meant for circulation. That's what made it so unusual. And when it hit the auction floor, the bids exploded. Collectors from across the country battled fiercely, each one desperate to own this mysterious no-mint mark penny. The final hammer price? Over $1.7 million. 1 cent, turned into a millionaire's dream. There might be more out there. Somewhere in America, sitting in a jar, a drawer, or even a dusty old coffee can, could be another one of these ultra-rare 1993 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies waiting to be discovered. Experts point to 3 clues. First, the missing mint mark. While Philadelphia coins typically lack a mint mark, this particular die had an ultra-clear strike with an unusual font alignment on the date, a subtle spacing error between the 9 and the 3. That tiny detail, nearly invisible without magnification, is one of the key signs. Second, the weight. The 1993 penny should weigh around 2.5 grams. But these rare examples? Slightly heavier, closer to 3.1 grams, suggesting they may have been accidentally struck on leftover copper planchets from decades earlier. That's the kind of minting anomaly that drives collectors wild. And finally, the sheen. The coin's surface reflects light in a way that's almost proof-like, showing an incredible level of detail on Lincoln's hair, the beard, and even the faint curve of the jacket collar. Many experts believe this was the result of an experimental striking process used briefly in early 1993, possibly as the mint adjusted to worn dies. But here's the twist: not all 1993 no-mint mark pennies are valuable. In fact, 99.999% of them aren't. Only those struck under these exact rare conditions, with that slight weight variance, the sharp detail, and the faint golden luster, are worth life-changing money. And that's why identifying the real thing takes a careful eye and a bit of patience. Start with the basics. Grab a small digital scale. If your 1993 no-mint mark penny weighs more than 2.5 grams, you've already got a strong sign. Next, use a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe. Look closely at the date. If you notice uneven spacing or a slightly tilted alignment, that's another clue. Finally, check the color under a strong white light. If you see a faint, warm golden tone rather than a bright red or dull brown, you might be holding something special. But even if it looks right, don't clean it, don't polish it, and definitely don't spend it. A single scratch can destroy its value. Instead, send it to a reputable grading service, like PCGS or NGC, and let the professionals confirm its authenticity. Stories are still surfacing of people finding 1993 pennies in old change jars or family coin boxes. A collector from California found one mixed with 1980 cents in a yard sale coin bag, and that discovery alone brought in nearly $1 million. Another from Florida noticed a heavier weight while sorting through coins to roll for the bank. That penny? Sold privately for $1.50 million. Every time a story like that emerges, the coin world goes into a frenzy. Dealers rush to check their inventories. Collectors grab their magnifiers. And average people start digging through their pocket change again, hoping lightning might strike twice. History hides in plain sight. The 1993 no-mint mark penny isn't just a coin, it's a symbol of possibility. Proof that sometimes the rarest treasures aren't buried underground or locked in museums. They're sitting quietly in the palm of your hand, waiting to change your life. And that's why this story matters. Because the next one to find this $1 million penny could be you. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or open that old change jar, look closer. Check those 1993 pennies. Weigh them. Examine the shine, the date, the smallest details. Because one of them, one single cent, could be worth up to $1.7 million.